tonight because we're actually doing the school board meeting as well. I take that back. Justin is going to play the promo. We're covering three meetings at the same time tonight. MVD.
Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.
Okay, thank you. I've got 6:35 is the time. We'll call to order this virtual meeting of the Merrimack Conservation Commission, September 21st, 2020. Some administrative notes before we get started. This is a virtual meeting due to COVID-19, during the COVID-19 crisis in accordance with Governor Sununu's Executive Order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04. The commission is authorized to hold this meeting electronically. As stated, the agenda, the meeting was are both aired on Merrimack TV, channel 20. Telephone access is available for members of the public to call in, providing comment. The number is 1-312-626-6799. And I guess we'll start, I'll go first, but just this, before we begin, if each of us would state where we are, why we're participating virtually, and if there's anyone else in the room with you, and if you're able to hear the audio. So I'll go first. I'm not able to attend in person because of COVID related precautions. I am currently traveling from business, so I'm attending from a hotel room. I am alone in this room, and I can hear the audio well. Gina, would you like to go next?
I'm Gina Rosati. I'm participating electronically from home. Attendance in person is not reasonably practical due to COVID-19. I am alone in the room I am in, and I can hear the proceedings.
Thank you, Gina. Mike Boisvert.
Hi, I'm Mike Boisvert. I'm participating electronically because of COVID-19. I'm alone in this room right now, and I can hear everyone just fine.
Excellent, thank you. Cindy?
Cindy Glenn. I'm participating electronically from home because this person was not reasonably practical due to COVID-19. I am alone in this room.
Cindy, you were coming in a little faint. Hopefully you can hear us all right. I don't know if there's a volume setting on whatever you're using.
Bring it a little closer. Is that better?
Oh, that's wonderful. Much better.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. Gage?
Yes, this is Gage Perry. I'm participating from home due to COVID-19 related issues, and I'm alone in my room, and my dog and I can hear everything just fine.
Thank you, Gage. We hope we'll get input later from your dog. Mike Swisher?
Mike Swisher. I'm participating remotely due to COVID-19. I'm alone in the room I'm in, and I can hear everyone perfect.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Pete?
Peter Albert. I'm participating remotely due to COVID-19. I'm at my residence, and there's nobody else in the room with me.
Wonderful. Tim?
Yeah, Tim Tenhave. I am participating remotely due to COVID-19 precautions. I can hear everyone just fine. I am alone in the room, yet there are others in my home with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And Mike Druin.
I'm Mike Druin. I'm participating remotely because of COVID-19. I'm alone in the house and I can hear everyone clearly.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All members are participating electronically. Just a reminder, all votes tonight will be roll call votes. I'll try to go in the same order I went here, just so everyone can negotiate getting on and off mute more easily. We don't need any alternates to sit in. We have a full commission tonight. So I'll go ahead and start with the agenda. The agenda is pretty ambitious tonight. Everyone saw that. There was a lot to read to. So I'll try to move quickly, but I don't want to short anyone. If I'm going too fast, please just raise your hand or slow me down. But to begin with, public comment. Nick, I don't see anyone in the public comment with a hand up. Am I right?
I don't see anyone in here for public comment.
Okay. I'll take that to mean that there is no public comment. There's also no public hearing, no public appointments. So before we start in with statutory business, I know we have the athletic director on with us. We'll move that to the beginning of new business. Let's just handle the two statutory advisory business items on the agenda, and then we'll bump you up to the beginning of new business items so you're not with us all night. But with that, I guess we're ready to hear the first item of statutory advisory business. That's Christopher Ross LLC. Review for recommendation to the planning board for the conversion of current retail space into 12 multifamily residential units, including building additions totaling approximately 848 square feet. The parcel is located at 401 Daniel Webster Highway in the C1 Limited Commercial Aquifer Conservation and Elderly Housing Overlay Districts. Tax map ID is 4D-3 lot 083. If you would, gentlemen, before I think Nick is taking you off mute, but before you begin to speak, just state your name, please.
Christopher Ross, owner of 401 Daniel Webster Highway, the property that we're discussing tonight.
Joel Sikala with 401 as well.
Excellent, thank you. Do you want to just start by giving us an overview of the project?
Yes, so I'm just anticipating somebody coming home and two dogs flipping out. So I'm gonna just really quickly just tell you that 401 DW Highway, you guys, a lot of you remember, I bought that property back in 2002. It was a decapitated red barn. I've been attracted to that building since I was a kid, and I wanted to reinvent it. So I basically invested everything I had into the rehab of that property back in 2002 and 2003. Turned it into a retail building where it serviced Katie's back. Sorry. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep. We can hear you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So where it housed Katie's Back Massage, Merrimack Vision Care, Mirabella Salon, a preschool, and my business from years ago. And over that time, I watched the retail public come in and out of that place over the course of 10 years. I'm sorry, 16, 17 years around that time, and just destroy the building and the site. When I was done that project, it was meticulous. It was just a beacon driving down the road. It was absolutely beautiful. And just the public from going in and out of there and the heavy traffic, foot and vehicle, it was just deteriorated. And now it's back to where it was, when I originally bought it. So I had the opportunity to keep retail in place, and I had monitored the site with the retail in place and noticed that we just had a huge problem with the parking. Synergy requires about 4 or 5 parking spaces, and we've never had a problem. But when you mix in all those uses, it just turns into a backlog of vehicles. Vehicles are waiting in the driveway for a parking space. They're doing U-turns. They're parking on the side of the driveway, which upsets community development and the fire department because they don't want any vehicle traffic on the driveway. I've also noticed cars on Daniel Webster Highway backed up during peak times when those businesses required more than average parking. It just got to be ridiculous. And I was out there directing traffic and moving vehicles, and I just got tired of it. So Joel and I have been running Synergy Storage for about 7 years now, and we've noticed that a lot of our customers are looking for a short-term property to move into while they're in transition. So you've got people that are building a house, you got people that are selling their home, looking for a home, you've got business people that are in transition. You've got people moving in from companies. There's just an abundance of uses where people are looking for a 1 to 11-month lease, and nobody does that. Everybody pretty much requires a 1-year lease, and we thought of an idea where we could take that building and strip it inside and out, just like I did back in the day, and convert it into 12 small short-term apartments, connect that building to Synergy, video cameras, our software, everything, and provide a solution for our customers. In doing so, we would be able to add on a couple of small additions. These additions are not for more space. I want to make that very clear. These additions are not for more space. They're actually correcting architecturally what should have been done. There's 2 farmers' porches on the front of the building with storefront glass, and the right way to do that is to connect those 2 front porches on the side and then wrap that around the south side where all those utilities are, and kind of hug the barn, if you would. And that's the addition that they're talking about. When we're all done, we give it a complete new skin, new roof, new windows, new trim, new siding, a new color palette, and what this does is we plug the building into Synergy so that our maintenance people are maintaining the building inside and out, so that we don't have that heavy foot traffic, and we've got somebody maintaining that building in a more protective state, which is what I want. I want to make sure that that place is maintained indefinitely and not have the same situation repeat itself. That's it.
Okay, and when do you go back to the planning board?
We go back to the
October
planning
6th.
board October 6th.
Who would like to start? Who has questions for Mr. Ross?
I guess I'll start. So are we changing the roof line or anything like that beyond the porches?
We are, Joe,
Yeah, sure. So what you see from the road essentially won't change at all. On the back side of the building, there's a shed roof right now that will be converted into a gable roof. But other than that, what you see will essentially stay the same.
Okay, so how are you handling water from the building now, and how do you and will it change with the change of use?
No, currently any runoff from the building is collected in traditional rain gutters. It goes into the existing water treatment system, and the same thing would happen. It would be no different. The gutters would stay on the building, and like Chris mentioned, the addition that's going on there, the one on the side of the building, that's an 8-foot addition, and that's essentially just to cover the unsightly mess that you see now coming up north on Daniel Webster Highway, with all the mess that's there and the mechanicals and so forth.
Yeah, and if I can just add something to that, when you do travel north on Route 3 and you look at that side, it's unsightly. There's a big old telephone pole in the middle of the lawn that we want to put closer to the street to get rid of all those power lines. All the utilities that you see on that side of the building, we want to get rid of and put, under shelter so that they're not, so that you don't see them. We're looking to create something cleaner. And to answer your question in more detail, those gutters, they drain into PVC pipes that plug right into our drainage system, just so you know.
Okay, what about impervious conditions? Are you changing any of the impervious, like the asphalt or anything like that?
No. The overall site, there's really no changes to the overall site. There's two. I'm guessing that you were given a plan there to.
Yeah, we've got a 2-sheet plan.
Yeah. So it shows 3 small additions. There's 2 small ones on the north end of the building, and then a little bit longer one on the south end. The 2 on the north end would be on top of existing concrete surface, so there's no change there. There would be a slight change on the south end where that addition is. However, I guess it'd be on the east side of the building, there's an existing sidewalk and playground that was for the daycare. Those would be removed so that it'd actually be a net increase to impervious surface. Pervious surface, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
There's more grass.
Yeah.
More grass, yes.
So I take it the residents are going to be parking in the lower lot near the Synergy building?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, we've got, when we had everything in operation, we were occupying every single parking space on the property. In addition, they were parking on the sides of the entire driveway, going all the way down, all the way behind Synergy. They were parking on the grass. They were parking in the middle of the large parking lot because there's enough room to do that. This new concept that we have rids that entire problem, and it actually provides us more than enough parking than needed.
Yeah.
So the waivers that we have in place, we don't even need them anymore.
Right. So just for transparency, I also was a customer of yours for 6 months while I was in transition between
Nice.
homes. And I can tell you that there is a need for what you're proposing to do, because I lived it. So
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
We do.
Yeah. That's all I have.
There's a reference on the plan for an AOT permit.
That was. I think that was actually left over because this plan is actually what was for some work we're doing on the backside of the Synergy project, and I believe the engineer used the same data set here. So I think that mark there was actually left over. That should have been removed from that plan set, but whatever. Yeah, it doesn't actually apply to this particular project here.
It looks like you are changing the parking lot too. Is that you making the park?
No, there's no changes to the parking lot.
Nope. Yeah, the AOT permit has nothing to do with this site, and we're leaving the parking lot as it is.
In terms of snow removal, where is I don't see that identified on this blueprint. Is it there and I just don't see it?
So every year, O'Keefe Landscaping has been servicing our site for, I want to say, over 10 years now. And the reason being, I personally require the entire site to be cleared. I don't like snow plows putting snow banks on the grounds, on the pavement. It's a mess and it's really unsafe. So I have a loader that comes in every snowstorm and removes the snow off site, basically, whether it be over the hill or onto the grass, but it does not stay on the pavement. I'm a nitpick.
Understood. Anyone else have questions?
I just have one. As far as trash removal, will you have dumpsters on site? Will you have trash pickup?
We've always had an 8-yard dumpster on site. We will more than likely maintain that 8-yard dumpster on site.
Thank you.
Are there any plantings or greenery plans?
So we're going to be talking to the planning board about the site, but there is grass and green on the site. There's something that I would prefer to do. My uncle is suffering with cancer, and he's a gardener, lifelong gardener by hobby. And what I wanted to do was build a planter that wraps around this new addition, and let him come and do what he does best. I don't see shrubs being the type of plantings that are going to be there. I see something that is like his gardens are. It just looks amazing. I don't know how he does what
Just
he does.
annuals and perennials up close to the building.
Yeah. Where it's cut down in the fall and then it comes back every spring. So that's what I'm looking to do. So in order that it would be impossible to provide a plan for that, because I would prefer to him.
That's absolutely true. Okay. Yeah, obviously, one thing I'd like you to keep in mind is any plantings, be cautious of invasive species.
Oh yeah.
Because we're battling that quite a bit here in town. So.
Anyone? Any other questions? Okay, well, we'll email the planning board and let them know that you came before us and we found your plan acceptable. And, thank you for joining us tonight.
All right, very good.
Thank
Guys,
you.
thanks for your time.
Let's see, the next item, John Flatley Company, review for the recommendation to the planning board for a site plan to construct 100,000 square feet of research and development warehouse in 3 proposed buildings and associated site improvements per the requirements of the Flatley mixed lease or mixed use conditional use permit. The parcel is located at 685 Daniel Webster Highway in the I-1 Industrial and Wetland Protection Area, tax map 6F, map 003-04.
Good evening. Nathan Chamberlain with Fieldstone Land Consultants. I'm here representing the Flatley Company with regard to this application. As you stated, it is part of the conditional use permit that Flatley has been working with the town for several years. And as you know, the apartments have already been constructed, and now we're moving on to the industrial portion of the property. There's also a commercial component, which is further down the road. So this is, they refer to it as flex buildings. So it's basically incubator space. That's why there's a kind of a dual notation in the notes, warehouse versus light industrial. It's open for both uses essentially. And that's how the parking has been set up. As you mentioned, it's in the industrial zone. It's lot 6E-3-4. It's Flatley owns, it's adjacent to St. Gobain. But other than St. Gobain, Flatley owns, John J. Flatley owns all the property in the vicinity. So he's his own abutter everywhere other than St. Gobain and then across the street, Webster Green's across the street. And as part of the conditional use permit, there was a proposed driveway opening onto Daniel Webster Highway opposite the Webster Green driveway. And then we also are proposing an entrance onto the St. Gobain driveway as well, if you look at the site plan. The parcel is approximately 45 acres and it's odd shaped. If you look at the cover sheet, it kind of wraps all the way around the St. Gobain piece. We're only working on the front portion adjacent along Daniel Webster Highway. And as you mentioned, it is 3 buildings with a total square footage of 100,000 square foot even. There will be loading docks in the back. I guess the southerly building closer to the apartments will have full loading docks, as will the central building. And then the long narrow building on the northern end will be drive-in loading in the back. So at grade loading. And essentially, as far as, we submitted a full site plan set, as you can see, to the planning board. It's gone under peer review. We have some comments to address. As is typical, a lot of comments, but everything is readily addressed there's nothing major there. I guess the one stickler is the stormwater. We met with, early on in this project, we met with DES, and as you know, the site's been contaminated by St. Gobain with PFOAs. And so they have basically taken any kind of infiltration off the table because they don't want to wash the pollutants that are in the soil now downstream. So they've directed us to do this filter. So we've got a large stormwater filter proposed in the lower corner there, down by the pond. So all the stormwater is collected in a closed drainage system and routed to that large filter, subsurface filter. And they also directed us not to analyze the pre-development runoff as due to our proximity to the river, and just to do the post-development and make sure it meets their requirements for a subsurface filter, which we've done. And it meets all those, it meets all the DES requirements of that filter. And that's basically where we stand with stormwater. It does that system. So it does have a large storage component that we can store all the storms in and then release it to the river, but everything runs through the filter first, and then it releases to the river, or to the brook there, to the pond, basically. The old fish hatchery there constructed those ponds, and they used to raise the fish there and release them into Dunkley Brook and down into the Merrimack River. That's been out of commission for several years now. And so at the outfall, we have a large, basically riprap plunge pool and we wanted it, the DES wanted it submerged, but we didn't want to do that. And we didn't want to get into a wetlands permit, so we kept it out of the wetland and just put a large plunge pool, basically at the elevation of the water. So it'll discharge to the pond without causing any erosion. As far as you might notice on the plan, there's some future parking. So as far as the parking goes, we've met the warehouse parking with some excess. And then if we have to go to the light industrial, we have 56 future spaces to get up to that threshold. I believe it's 167 spaces required if the entire site is light industrial, and we've got 169 with the 56 future spaces included. The total disturbance for this project is just under 500,000 square feet, 498,000. And then the total area of impervious area, proposed impervious additional area is 7.2 acres. Unfortunately, this site is ideal for some kind of for infiltration BMPs or porous pavement, but it's just unfortunate we can't utilize those BMPs on this site, and we're pretty much straddled with one BMP that we can use to treat the stormwater. And we submitted all that data to the town. It's in the drainage report. It's also stormwater maintenance plan and the drainage report, and all that information been submitted. And so we're just basically here to present the plan and get your recommendation to the planning department, and I can certainly answer any questions you might have.
Obviously, if you're not allowed to do any on-site drainage, what are you going to do about snow removal?
So there's several snow storage areas shown around all across the site. So it'll be stored around the edges of the parking areas. It's typically done in this type of arrangement. And we're not doing anything for drainage. We're doing where everything is collected in a closed drainage system and routed to the sand filter down in the lower, I guess that would be the southeast corner.
So the town no one's made any comments, or DES never made any extra comments about storing snow and causing extra drainage in those areas either?
I mean, no, typically that's not a concern. You pile of snow and it melts at a slow rate. We design for big events. So basically 50-year storm, the system's been designed for the 50 and 100-year storm.
So does that mean all the parking areas and roadways and all that have drainage into them and then pipe to the treatment spot, or does it just does the sheet flow just across the property?
No, it's a closed drainage system. There's several catch basins. We've created basic low points, so everything drains to low point in the catch basin and then piped over that location.
Okay, and that includes all the roof.
Yes,
capture too?
so the roofs, all the roofs are collected in the closed drainage system. They all have roof leaders piped into the system as well. One thing of note is the first building, I guess, on the south side, adjacent to the pond, because of the grades there, that building is stepped. So each pod, there's 2 buildings per pod, basically. It steps up a foot. So that along the front there, it all slopes down to the south, and then it's routed back to that filter that I mentioned. But everything, gradually goes with the highway and raises up towards the St. Cobain driveway. That's the high end of the lot. But everything, the closed drainage system's all been designed to the town standards. As you know, they have pretty strict requirements, and it's all been designed to meet those.
So would the snow that's stored on site, when that melts, would that become part of the infiltration system?
Yes, it all melts into the drainage system and it gets filtered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Question: what are you guys going to be using for snow and ice mitigation?
Well, there's no on the plan that no ice shall be used other than extreme conditions for safety.
Okay, are you aware that Merrimack Village District is monitoring, and they don't want salt usage and so forth. They want environmentally safe ice melt being used on sites.
Yes, so we have a note to the plan as well that it's got to be a Snow Pro certified maintenance person.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So what happens to material that's excavated during the construction process?
So we're going to have to do a detailed plan to store that material. And we're in the process of working that out with DES as we proceed here. So short answer to your question is we really haven't worked out all those details at this time. Just trying to get through the planning board process, and then we'll get into detailed construction. How do we manage the site in that regard? But it's going to be, we're just going to have to put containment around these earth piles.
So you're proposing then that there's going to be earth piles that are going to remain after the site has been built out?
No, that's not the plan, no.
Okay, so what happens to the material that's excavated, like for all the footings and everything else?
Well, it's going to be stockpiled on site until it's such a time that it's no longer, all the cuts and fills are completed. And then we'll have to, do something with it.
Right, that's the question. I'm curious what's going to be done with it. Are we going to move the current problem that's on site to someone else's site?
I don't. We have not gotten into the details as far as how much excess material we're going to end up with. So.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest, and of course, I'm not a voting member tonight, but I would suggest that we raise a concern with the planning board that we're concerned about material leaving the site and where it's going, as well as if material is going to stay stored on the site. How do we know that it's it's being contained in a manner that won't further propagate any issues with PFOA and PFCs and all the other chemicals involved?
It's a great point. I've got that note.
Yeah, Tim, I think that's a great point as well. And Nathan, I guess, as the representative of the council here on the Conservation Commission, when the apartments or the condos were going in, there was a lot of discussion, and I don't think there was a lot of transparency on how the topsoil was moved or stored or where it was put. And there was a lot of consternation with the council as well as with many members of the community. And what I'm hearing is, and I agree with Tim, I'm hearing that there's no plan in place and everything seems fairly ambiguous. So I'm starting to think that maybe we're going to be back at the same issue again, much like we were with the apartments. Is there anything you can say that's going to maybe change my concerns?
Sure. So I can understand your concern. When the apartments were approved, this whole PFOA thing was not known and not a concern. It happened halfway through the construction process. So as far as our permitting for DES, no one knew about it. So, but at this point, everyone knows about it, and it's going to be looked at thoroughly through DES. And, you know, we're working through DES, not only through the AOT program, but also, you know, the applicant and the owner, Flatley, are working with other aspects of DES who handle this PFOA issue, and they're very concerned about it, the same concerns you stated tonight. And we have to address those concerns before we proceed, and we will address those concerns before we proceed. And we'll come up with a detailed plan on how to handle all the excavation, all the surplus, and there, you know, if we have to cap it on site, we will. I mean, at this point, we have not gotten that far in the plan on the construction end of it. We're in the planning phase now. But I assure you that's going to be looked at thoroughly through our DES permitting on this site.
When do you go before the planning board?
I'm sorry?
When do you go before the planning board?
I think we're next week. I'm not.
October 6th?
Yes, yep.
Is the sand filter already there? That's something that you would have to.
No, that's all proposed.
So, and how deep does that run vertically? I mean, how many yards of soil would have to be removed for that?
It's approximately, the whole section is approximately 10 feet thick. The filter itself, so how it works is we have a stone reservoir at the bottom with a collection system. Then we have a 24-inch filter. Then we have another stone layer. And then we have a chamber system on top. So then we have, it's the largest chamber you can buy. Probably, I think it's 5 feet high. And then you have another stone layer on top of that. So this is all detailed in the plans. It's a very thick section. So yes, we're going to be digging that material out and put in the filter and all those components.
Is there any maintenance plan required for that, the filtration system?
Oh, yes. It'll be a detailed maintenance. There'll be, you know, there's several inspection ports mandated in the system to get into it. And there'll be, so the first two rows are what they call an isolator row. So that's basically a 4-bay or a sediment bay to trap any sediments that come into the system. And then the other, I think it's 4 rows, are just simply storage for the clean runoff. So the whole thing, you know, your first flush goes into the treatment, the 4-bay, the isolator row, where the majority of your sediments are captured, and that's maintained through 2 manholes. You can get a vac truck in there and flush it out. And then the rest of the system is accessed through ports. And on the other end, that's also accessed by manhole. So very detailed design has been put together for that. And the maintenance plan will be given to the contractor. Or given to the facilities manager, I should say. And it's required to be inspected twice a year.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, so will you be doing any control of stormwater along the road, such as under the new entrance or exit or anything like that?
Yes. So the driveway pitches up a little bit from the road, but then pitches down to the site, and that's where, you know, most of the driveway is coming onto the site and will be captured in the system. And same thing with the other end on the St. Cobain driveway. There's already existing runoff coming down that existing driveway going across where our proposed driveway is, and so that's going to continue, and then the rest of it's going to go into the site.
So how about just along the roadway itself? Are you the elevations near the proposed entrance across from Shelbourne Road down towards the pond area? I mean, there's a change in elevation there. So are you doing anything special with that, or are you just going to let you leaving the land as it is at this point?
There was no intent. You're referring to along Daniel Webster Highway?
Correct, right.
Yeah, no, that's going to stay as is. So right now, currently, there's like a swale there along the way, and we're not disturbing that. That's going to stay as is. And maybe a small section of the driveway will go into that swale. The rest of it's going to come on site. And then on the other side of the driveway, there's already an existing low area, which we will pick up and bring into our system.
So how much water is going to be leaving the treatment going into the pond?
Well, varies for the storm.
Okay. So that means, you haven't calculated numbers for the current condition. So what I'm after is do we have any idea of how much more water is going to end up in the brook for the different 10-year, 25-year, 50-year storms?
No.
So the brook ends up leaving your portion of the site, and I believe it crosses into another parcel before entering the river. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, so it flows through the Flatley land, and then it goes under the railroad tracks into the river.
Yeah, does it flow through another parcel that's not owned by Flatley before it enters the river?
That I'm not sure of. There might be some land, town-owned land down on the other side of the railroad tracks.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. So have we done any calculations to determine if there's going to be any disruption or damage to the town property that's bordering the river, that's between the river and the railroad tracks?
No.
Yeah, because I would be concerned that we need to control the water and not further disrupt that property, and therefore create an issue for our property, our conservation property.
Understood.
So I'd like to see data that shows that that there's not going to be any damage, or these are the things that we're going to do in order to control velocities and stuff like that.
Well, it is discharging into the pond, which is, working to do that.
Yeah, but then once it leaves the pond, because the water level is going to be high enough, it'll be a change.
Possibly, yeah.
It could, right, and without doing an analysis, we don't know, and I don't want to find out that all of a sudden we have a major erosion problem on property that we own, and property that we're potentially looking to improve upon.
Okay.
Yeah, piggybacking off Tim's concerns on high volume events, I was looking through the email chain between DES and whoever was working with them on the high volume events, and I found some language kind of interesting I hadn't seen before, which is apparently you were to focus on qualitative measures, not quantitative measures.
Correct.
And I wondered
That's what we're
if you could
directed.
help clear that up a little bit for me, so I could better understand. My thinking is that if a storm is too big and it can't enter the system to be qualitatively handled, it's not being handled at all. It's completely bypassing, and it's not being treated on its way down to the river.
So the way it works is 99% of your pollutants come off in the first inch of rainfall. So the qualitative portion is only in the smaller storms. In a flood stage event, all the pollutants are already gone. So you're just dealing with large flows. So anything above a 2-year storm is basically, all the pollutants have already been washed off. So when they talk about qualitative, they're only focused on the 1 inch to 2 year storm. 1 inch storm is, like it says, 1 inch of rainfall. And that's 99% of your storms and 99% of your pollutants. And then we get up to 2 year storm, which is around 3 inches. And then the 10 year storm, which is like, 4 inches, and so on and so on. So we're really only talking about the 25, 50, and 100 year storm when you talk major storms.
But I mean, is the point of that is sort of the end result that those big storms are just being ignored for this plan?
No, they're not ignored. They're built into the design. But as far as treatment goes, we're only looking at 2 year and below.
I see. So there's a differentiation between what's being treated and what's being handled. There's a
correct
fine line there. I understand.
Right. So you do a detention basin, you have to treat the 1 inch storm, but the basin also has to be able to handle the 50 year storm.
Sure.
with 1 foot of freeboard. So in this case, we have a subsurface system and it needs to be able to handle that same 50-year storm without blowing the top off the catch basin. You know what I mean? So it's got to pass that large storm, but it's got to treat the small storm because that's where the pollutants are. If you were to treat a 50-year storm, it'd be insane. The thing would be ridiculously large.
Well, I had assumed it was noteworthy because there's this long email chain about it, and I would assume in regular business there wouldn't be a need for that. So I thought there was something at least worthy of being asked, but I appreciate your clarification.
So yeah, so when we met with DES, their stance was because of our proximity to the river that we did not need to do a pre and post analysis because basically by the time the river crests, and the same thing with the brook, by the time the brook crests, our flow is going to be down the river. So the river crests days after the storm. So our site, all the water from our site is already down the river. And that's why they said, don't worry about the pre and the post, just focus on the treatment. And that's what we have done.
I appreciate the clarification.
The brook, the watershed of the brook is 300 acres. Our water is going to be gone by the time that brook peaks. So, you know, the river's days, the brook is, you know, or the brook, the river's several days and the brook is days. It could be days, I mean. The main thing is ours is going to be long gone by the time either of those crests, and that's why we do not do a pre and post.
After having been treated, I assume.
No, it's treated. Yes,
yeah,
it's all treated. That's where as we're directed by DES to treat the runoff from our site, and that's what we've done.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep.
I take it the word hay, it doesn't exist on the plans, it's straw, if we're talking about that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll certainly double check to make sure, but I'm pretty sure we caught that.
Yeah.
It's a comment every time we come, so.
Yeah, that's, and I know you and your firm have been here before, that's why I brought it up, so.
Yep.
Anything else? Any other questions? All right, well, we got a lot of notes here. We'll just give our feedback to the planning board. And you said October 6th is when you're going back there?
Yes.
Okay, but we'll capture those things we've talked about now, just the hay, the snow crow, and excavated soils and how they'll be treated, making sure we have a plan to understand that thoroughly.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for presenting this tonight.
All right. Well, thank you for hearing us.
Sorry, Steve. In the water flow across the town property, correct?
Right. Water flow across the town property, a study on that, particularly as it affects that land between the railroad tracks and the river. I've got this. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Moving on, new business. As I mentioned at the top, we'd like to hear from Michael Susi first. Well, Nick's getting him patched in. I know probably everyone saw the email. I'm trying to read the date. It came on the 14th of September about a proposal to use portions of Wildcat Falls for a track event. Is he on, Nick? Do you know?
He may have thought that he was so late that he's just turning in later. So, I mean, we can probably just proceed, and when he does come on, then we can patch him in.
Yeah, he sent us a pretty detailed email. I know we have not been asked for any sort of feedback or recommendation from the town council on this. Tell me if someone objects. I think as long as Wildcat Falls is closed to those residents who live in the Courier neighborhoods, it would feel sort of wrong to give permission for anyone else to use those properties. I know there was also some concerns that the school board had just about steep grades and access to that site from Merrimack High School. That's not necessarily a matter we need to discuss here, but does anyone feel differently that if we were asked for that recommendation, that that's essentially what it would be when Wildcat Falls is open? Would love to see the athletes run in there. Yeah, Pete?
Yeah, Steve, I guess you can consider yourself, the commission can consider themselves asked by the council. I mean, I'd like to hear the commission's opinions at this point regarding the opening of Wildcat Falls. If that is something we can discuss at this point, because we do want to get recommendations, and those conversations are coming up soon. So I'd love to hear from everybody here on how they feel about that. So I'll listen.
Who wants to go first? Gina, you're probably closest to it with the subcommittee.
Okay, so when it was closed to all of us. So I cannot go in, the subcommittee members cannot go in. We need to get permission. When we wanted to do a cleanup, we needed to get permission. The Courier Road residents, they cannot go in. So this is not even a matter of parking anymore. This is closed and nobody goes in. So we had gone to, before we closed it, we went to the to Superintendent Mark McLaughlin and to Matt Chevenel, and we also spoke to Merrimack Police, and we asked, can we put signs up and direct parking down to the high school? And there were concerns. Superintendent McLaughlin and Matt Chevenel had concerns that, first of all, well, the police had concerns because they were afraid that people would ignore the signs about parking when school was in session, and people would park and they would be walking down around the school area while school was in session. The other big concern was liability, because there's one major trail that is quite steep. Pete's been on it. It's steep, it's rocky, it's kind of slippery when you're walking down because the rocks will slide you down. So that was a big concern of theirs, was liability about that. Now, there is a second trail. I don't know it well, but I have heard that there is a second trail. It's very, very overgrown. So my feeling is, I mean, if the town council would like to explain to the rest of the town why they can't use it, but the high school can, that is their prerogative. They would have to go in through the high school because they're not going to be able to park in Curry Road. So they would have to be parked there. They would have to go down one of those trails, whether it's the steep one, or then maybe the track team wants to clear the other trail so that it's accessible for other people. And then they would be entering on the state land. And from the state land, then they could access the town property if the town council decided to open it up to the track teams for practice, and the track teams, their invited guests, and their invited guests, spectators. So
I think what Tim was asking also, though, is if the town council wanted a recommendation on whether it's time to reopen Wildcat Falls.
This is true, but I don't believe that they have, and Pete can let me know, I don't believe all the parking issues have been figured out yet. Have the parking issues been figured out yet? The last I heard, parking on one side of the street was decided, but there was still questions about parking, whether it was going to be residents only or not.
Well, residents only was approved, but we've gone the window. There's a 3 months window that resident only parking will take effect in the Courier Road neighborhood, and I believe that ended September 15th. So the council has, as a group, has decided to wait for the posting of the residents only signs until the spring. I think that was the recommendation, and I think that's the tact we're taking at this point, is to wait till the spring and post the signs at that point, kind of see what's going on. The one side parking only did not pass. And that was regarding safety concerns. That issue came up regarding safety concerns for emergency vehicles getting around some of these areas where folks were parking. So that issue kind of came to loggerheads on whether the whole neighborhood gets done or just certain areas. So that in effect didn't pass. So
So was that decided at the September 10th meeting?
Yeah, the one-sided parking was at the last meeting, yes.
All right, I'll have to go back. I haven't had a chance to watch that full meeting yet, so. Have you mentioned when they're thinking about reopening, or?
Well, I mean, I think I think we'd like to do it soon. And I guess I'd like to kind of get a feel from everybody here. I can bring back to the council to say, or maybe it comes in the matter of a formal email or something from Steve on our recommendations of whether everybody feels it's comfortable, it's time to open it up.
So right now, there's no parking restrictions?
No.
So everything there now is like it was before, as far as who can park where and
yes,
before its closure. Yeah.
Well, now wait a second. If they already nixed one side street parking, that means that there's no parking on the street.
No, you can park in the street at this point. The only thing that went through was the residents only parking, unless I'm not getting your question right.
Well, if we nixed the ability to park on one side of the street, that means now people can park on both sides?
Yes, when it's not during the residents only season.
So I'm confused because they proved that they put the police and the fire department were down there and they parked on both sides of Hemlock, like going from Courier onto Hemlock. They parked on both sides and they could not get a fire truck down there. So that still didn't pass down there?
No, the best thing to do is to watch the minutes.
I'll watch it. Yeah.
There was some diversity. I personally wanted to see, there was the particular area at the end, the loop there, at the end of Courier, Fur, I forget the other street name. That one, I wanted the one-sided parking down there, and one other counselor did. And then a couple counselors wanted it throughout the whole neighborhood, and then a couple counselors didn't want any signs at all. So.
But you're going to have signs posted in the spring that say residents only from, what did they decide, like mid-May to mid-September?
That's correct.
All right. So, but that doesn't go into effect until the signs are posted in the spring.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, and that makes sense because we're past September 15th. So, all right. So, I mean, at this point, then they might as well just open it up. I mean, that would be my recommendation, is just get it open. It's past swimming season, so we won't have the swimmers down there.
I would suggest that it opens in November after the leaves fall down.
Yeah.
And Tim, that makes a great point. But what we do have, and we found out through this whole process, is something we can address this time around, and it can be enforced. And that was a whole. I've got more parking laws going through my head at this point in time than I care to, but I believe we can use the temporary no parking sign should that issue arise again, and it is enforceable.
Pete, is the residence parking in the spring, is that going to be for the street only or the lot only or both? How's that going to work?
It's going to be for the street. I believe we discussed a residence only parking for the Wildcat Falls Conservation Area parking lot. And we were told that we can only set aside a certain number of spaces. that could be for residents only. We could mark them residents only, but we couldn't do the whole parking lot.
Is there a particular percentage? Because you could leave one for visitors, perhaps.
Well, that's a great try, Mike, but I think it was more almost like a 50-50 type thing.
Yeah.
All right. Was there no interest in doing that at a minimum?
It's not off the board. I think that we want to definitely go forward with some more, talk about the parking lot in and of itself. That's for certain. And again, and hear from the commission on that as well. We already have kind of heard some of your voices regarding that. So.
Yeah, there's only 15 spots down there, so I mean, if you set aside half and half, then I mean.
And one of the big things I'm truly in favor of, and we're researching, is potentially a footbridge from the ball fields across to Wildcat Falls. And I believe that could solve a lot of our parking. It's away from houses. It's got easily 50, 60, maybe more parking spaces. And I think that could be a good resource, but it may be cost prohibitive to put a footbridge in over there. I think the initial estimate was 1.1 million. And now we're looking at the footbridge from Merrill's Marauders. We're hoping to get, I think, 600, maybe 660,000 for that. And I was wondering if we can transfer that money to a footbridge that would better serve us over by the ball fields. So that's being looked at as well. So I don't want to get you guys, everybody sidetracked here.
Yeah, but just a quick comment on that though, Pete. The Merrill's Marauder repair, 600K, part of that is being requested as part of the next 10-year transportation funding dollars. Kyle put that in. NRPC is going to be reviewing that and providing a recommendation. It turns out the money that's allocated this year to support future projects as part of the 10-year plan, there wasn't enough projects submitted to spend all the money, which means there's another $3 million that hasn't been even earmarked to a project because there's not enough projects to earmark it. So right now is a ripe old opportunity to put in yet another pedestrian related project against that 10-year dollars. And Kyle would know how to do that because he's the one who submitted the last one. Andy's part of a subcommittee of the NRPC, actually the MPO, the Municipal Planning Organization that's part of NRPC. So he would know how to do that. And we might want to at least get the project noted and requested, and then it can be deliberated and may not happen today. It may happen in 9 or 10 years, but it's at least being started. And there's also matching funds, but we wouldn't have to cover the whole thing.
Yeah. Now, Tim, this is NRPC money?
Yeah, the national, no, so it's state of New Hampshire money. Every year they allocate more money to add projects to the 10-year plan.
Gotcha.
And right now we're planning the next, we're adding money for, I guess 2032 to 2029 to 2032. I forget what it is. So, but Kyle already submitted the Merrill's Marauders bridge, but we might as well submit a second one if it's not all allocated yet.
Good to know. I'll actually shoot him an email.
Okay.
So getting back to high school track at Wildcat, I guess if we're going to give a recommendation, what's everyone's thoughts about allowing what they want is they want their track team to be able to get into Wildcat Falls, which would be crossing through the state land to get onto the town-owned land, which is currently closed. And then they'll want to do 2 meets coming up in, I think, October. And the 2 meets would mean that visiting school and the visiting and parents and, from both schools would be there. So there would be people in there. And the question would be, is everybody up for allowing the track team to practice in there? Is everyone up for allowing the meets to occur there?
According to his letter, Gina, the first meet is in 8 days.
What?
8 days, yeah.
8 days.
September 29th is the first one. October 20th is the second one.
Wait a minute, September 29th? Oh, yeah, I should have read a little careful. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. And October 20th is the second one. I think we all agree that if the residents of Courier Road and everyone else in Merrimack can't use Wildcat Falls, then no one else should be allowed to use it. Does someone not agree with that?
I agree with that.
Agreed.
Okay. So I think if we're asked by the town council for our input on it, we're pretty much unanimous on that.
So in other words, open it now or don't open it to anyone.
Correct.
Okay.
And I can relay that tomorrow in an email to the council and to the town manager. And I believe the coach has also reached out to us as well.
He has.
This issue. So, just a quick aside is, I'd love to see the school, like Gina has talked and I've seen, is the entryway from the school. I know they don't want that to be a major entryway, a point of entry, but I'd love to see them help us with the trails, since their cross-country team wants to use the Wildcat Falls, with the trails behind their school along the river. If they could do some things there, I'd love to, us to maybe reach out to the superintendent and ask him about, hey, let's work together here. You take care of your end of the trails there that we use in this system. And the town's got that walk pathway system that's going under the Chamberlain Bridge as well. So maybe we can all tie it in.
Who takes care of the school property? Is that DPW or does the school have a private contractor?
They have their own staff, actually. And they supplement with private contractors for snowplow and other things like that. They have their own staff.
Okay.
So the other thing is we also own a 1 acre parcel that is really near that high school entrance.
But which high school entrance? There's 2 high school entrances.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I believe it's along the trail that is not well defined any longer.
Do we own that land, or does the high school?
Oh yeah, no, we the Conservation Commission own 1 acre of land along the river that they would end up entering and utilizing.
Oh, so if they went on the trail that is not as steep, they would have to access through our land.
Correct.
To the state land.
I believe so. We'd have to go out there and map it and walk it, but I believe so.
Okay, because I'm curious if the land that needs to be cleared belongs to the school, belongs to the state, or belongs to Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I don't think it's the state. It's either the school or it's the town. It's us. It's one or the other. It's either the school or it's us.
All right. Well, if anybody wants to go out and walk it with me sometime, let me know.
Gina, I'd like to go out and walk that with you. And maybe while we're out there, I'll formulate, I like Pete's idea. Maybe I'll send an email to the superintendent and talk about a cooperative approach to maintaining that.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Everyone agree?
Before you do that, then let's talk offline about where the boundaries are and all that, so you can have a good feel for things.
Okay. Okay, so we kind of went out of order on the agenda here. So when Mike Susi does come on board, we'll have to fill him in on our discussion. But yes. So
right.
You're just going to tell the town council what our recommendation is? Do you want us to put together a memo?
I mean, I'll shoot a email to the town manager and the council tonight, and that'll cover it. And and time being of the essence for the track team and so forth, I think the Conservation Commission makes a great point that if residents can't use it, as much as I love to see the kids running and competing and using that, if regular residents can't use it, then we're gonna, then we keep it closed till everybody can.
Right. Yeah. That does seem like the fair thing to do.
I know it's kind of far away, but the Greater Woods has already got a couple cross-country routes mapped into it from the middle school. So
it's great parking too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and One thing you're not going to get at Wildcat Forest is there's no place. Not that there's a great way to go watch cross country runners. They disappear into the woods, and then half hour later they pop back out in the other end somewhere. So there's really not a great spectator sport, but Greater Woods does provide some better venue for viewing, as they go through the trails.
It's a great point, Gage.
Well, and there's plenty of parking up in the middle school too. They could park up there and run up there.
Yeah, they could utilize the restrooms at the middle school with the runners.
On Saturday though, because aren't there meets on Saturdays or those? Oh no, you're right. Tuesday the 20.
No, they're typically they're typical after school event.
Okay.
All right, if we're clear of that agenda item, I'd like to move on to the 2020 annual LSIP survey at Wasserman Park. I think there's a few. Mike probably didn't participate. I think Mike Swisher did last year, but I guess this is once a year we owe it to the state to go out and do a survey of the Wasserman conservation area and just report that it's in good condition and identify any misuse or anything like that. Tim, did I skip something?
No, I think you've got basically the right thing. So as a requirement of the state money we received under the LCIP program, when we purchased the property in 1992, I think it was, or 1990, we have to do an annual survey of the property and fill out a form and submit that to the state. There's a particular agency that receives that along with pictures if we take them, and we have to do that once a year. And the agency itself will go out and walk the parcel every now and then as well, and will report on things to us. So this is something we have to do every year. We follow a particular form that has to be done, and we just need to arrange to do it. I got the annual reminder in the spring, and I got another one more recently, which is what prompted me to ask to put this on the agenda. The last 2 or 3 years, we've done it in November after the leaves have fallen. The advantage to that is you can see a whole lot more through the woods when the leaves are off the trees. But we could literally do it anytime this calendar year, but we are running out of time. In this year in particular, I would request that another person actually does the filing and all that, because next year I may not be a member of the commission to guide you through this again. So my term ends next June as an alternate, and I haven't decided if I'm going to continue my term, if I'm going to take a break. So.
Well, Eric's not here, so clearly Eric wins this.
And generally speaking, this is just a great outing. It's a good time. We'll put it on we'll make it, or we'll put out, we'll make sure community development knows about it. So there can be four of us there. It's a great time to get together, go for a walk in Wasserman, and not follow a regular meeting agenda.
We've done a really good job the last couple of years picking a really cold day to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
Steve, now I looked at 2 days. And it does make sense, like Tim said, to do it after the leaves have fallen, because it's a little bit easier to observe without spreading out 10 feet and doing a search party style walk. But November 1st is a Sunday. I don't know how that works in people's schedules. And November 7th is a Saturday. That's the following Saturday. I think typically we've done it 9 to 11, right? 9 a.m.
Yeah, we've got the annual NHACC conference coming up in November as well on the 7th.
Oh. The 7th is probably a bad opportunity, a bad
I'm
time.
free on Sundays. Is anyone else free on Sundays?
First sounds good so far.
Yeah,
Sunday,
first sounds
November
good.
1st.
First sounds good.
First?
No one objects. Well, it's Sunday, November 1st, 9 to 11. But if you're having such a great time that you want to stay past 11, of course, we can do that. All right.
So who's going to volunteer to do the submittal?
Eric, thought we already decided that.
He probably would do a great job with it.
Yeah, I was just saying, and all kidding aside, he's pretty good at this, so we might want to approach him and see if he wants to do it.
All right, well, we can bring it up at our next meeting. There is time.
Tim, I'll reach out to Eric before that and just plant the seed about what an exciting project that is.
Okay. And
Documenting our annual walk.
I can provide what we did last year if he doesn't have a copy of it in his email.
He doesn't, because he hasn't been able to get in that email yet, but thank you.
Okay.
Okay. The next item of new business is the NHACC. Was everyone able to open that and look through those materials? So, would anyone like to evangelize about what a great program this is, even though it's going to be on Zoom? I assume, I didn't see it in here, but I assume that attendance will be limited to the number of participants per event. Although, I'm surprised it didn't say that, but I know Tim, when I went the first year, Tim was able to guide me in which sessions I should attend. And you got to kind of think this out because they're in blocks. But there were certainly some good ones, and probably some that are more appropriate for different people. So, Gage or Tim, would you like to make recommendations on the?
On the classes and which ones?
Yeah, which ones were great? I know someone coached me on going to the wetland identification one last year, and that was fantastic.
Yeah, well, all new members of conservation commissions should really take the fundamentals class. The one that, because you'll really learn a lot about the role of conservation commissions and your role as a commissioner and some of the nuances of things. So.
And on the flip side of that, any of those classes, obviously, any of the things that we learn seem to be worthy, and then we can pass that data along. So as people look at those, they find things that are interesting. It's worthwhile just to go to them. I mean, there's all the folks that every class I've been to has been, it's like, oh wow, that was cool. Maybe not been something we were going to use here directly in town, but it's helpful information to have and kind of opens your eyes a little bit. So I'm say which classes you should go to. I would find classes that pique your interest.
I think the key part too is there is a deadline listed in here for registration. I would encourage anyone that wants to participate in these classes to register early, and maybe the best thing to do would be register. If you register for them, you can do that yourself, but then email Sharon or email me, one of us, and I can forward it to Sharon either way, just so she knows how many people are attending, so she can pay the registration fee for it.
Yeah, and this year it's different. It only runs in the morning, so it starts at 8 o'clock, just for everyone to get familiar with how Zoom works, and then it wraps up at noontime. So it's 4 hours. So there's only 2 sessions. So you're only going to get a chance to see 2 classes beyond the annual business. So.
What's today? Can everyone have that? When's our next meeting?
I believe it's the 19th of October.
Okay. I don't know. You think that's too late? Probably not.
For what, Steve? I don't know.
For people to decide whether they want to participate in this thing.
I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but there's usually a deadline as to when they.
I know, and the good ones usually fill up, but I don't see a deadline in here.
Yeah, they because it's Zoom, they might just let anyone go whenever. So.
Yeah. I mean, we might just want to sign up as soon as possible. So,
right.
Take get yourself signed up and then let Sharon know so that she can pay for everything.
Yeah, I don't see a deadline in here, so I'll put a note to remind everyone on the 19th during our next meeting, if they haven't done so, to go ahead and sign up and make sure they get their name to Sharon. The next item is actually our schedule for the remainder of the year. Looking back at this is I said it earlier, this was a tough agenda, a pretty massive agenda to get through tonight. I wish we had figured out a way to maybe do it twice or 2 meetings in one of these months, but I looked at the calendar today, and with the holidays in November, and the fact that we're almost into October, I just don't see how that's possible. But Sharon sent this out, so our next meeting would be the 21st, or I'm sorry, October 19th, November 16th, and December 7th. That seems acceptable to everyone. I think I will approach Sharon again. It's been about 3 months since we talked about it. Just approach. I don't remember all the reasons that they were against doing a hybrid meeting, which would have allowed some of us to attend in person if we wanted to. I know several of us feel like that's a much more comfortable way to do a meeting. So I'm going to ask again the question. Do you know, Pete, or any of the other? Is anyone else doing hybrid meetings yet?
I mean, the council's been having meetings, as you've seen, and we've been using the Matthew Thornton room. We've social distanced. I mean, folks wear their mask in, and once we've sat down and we begin discussing, we take our masks off. One counselor prefers his on, and that's fine. And anybody in the meeting room is social distance. I'm very comfortable with it. And I frankly have kind of had enough of Zoom meetings. So I'm good to go with a real live meeting myself personally. Social distance atmosphere, but I understand if some folks don't. But I want to say I talked about hybrid, and I thought there was an issue. Maybe Nick could answer that.
I think there is some sort of legality around it now that I'm thinking about it, Stephen. I can go back and I can look for the email for it. It came out like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, we got an email about that, and someone, I don't know if it's Tim Thompson or something, somebody gave us some guidance as to what was going on with that.
Yeah.
If this is Nicholas, if you think it's appropriate, I don't mind joining your meeting and talking about it.
Yeah, please.
From a technology perspective, I wasn't planning on it, but I can.
Sure.
Please go. Yes.
Again, I wasn't planning on talking about it, but I can from a technological perspective. It'd be when you say a hybrid meeting. Oh, there we go. Again, I'm sorry. From a technological perspective, when you say hybrid meeting, what I think you mean is you want to meet in person in, say, the Matthew Thornton room or the Memorial Conference room, but also give people the ability to join you through a virtual meeting space like the one that we're using tonight. If we were to do that and meetings were to be recorded, there's a lot that would have to go on to make that possible. And some of these things we cannot wrap our heads around. One of the ideas would be that that each person attending in person would still be using a laptop in front of them that's in a virtual meeting as well. And it may require each of those members to wear headsets and microphones. So at that point, you're still hosting a virtual meeting.
Okay. What if we had laptops in front of us and we all put them on mute and had a speakerphone in the Matthew Thornton conference room? And did the audio through the speakerphone?
Again, I wasn't totally prepared on speaking about this tonight, but the point that I want to make is that there's a lot of things that we would have to do to make that possible for a meeting, for that meeting to happen without there being a whole lot of issues with the audio and video. The other thing is that there could be a delay as well. So there's a couple other ways that we thought about doing that, where if someone were watching on the channel or on the Merrimack TV website, which streams live now, if there's a delay. And at that point, you're no longer necessarily if you're going to have a meeting in person, you're not necessarily there. I wouldn't know the purpose of a hybrid meeting if the board is choosing to meet in person. Maybe some people aren't comfortable meeting, maybe some people are. Maybe that's the board's decision, but as Gina said, legally, I'm not quite sure if you can have a meeting that way either. That was brought up through an email sent from Tim. What we've done with the council is we have had members join via phone, because we do have 2 phone lines in that room now. And that's not necessarily because of COVID concerns. It's because, we've used the phone in the past as well. If someone were out of town and still wanted to participate in the meetings, that we know is possible. But a hybrid meeting where it's virtual and in person, we're already, with the technology we have available now, we're already sort of pushing it as far as staffing goes, and also just with the equipment that we have. So I'm not quite sure if we're in a place to pull it off or have the infrastructure to pull it off. Like I said, I think the way that it could be done would be to have everyone who's participating on headset microphone, with the virtual meeting space happening in front of them, like a laptop in front of them, so that the people participating virtually can see the people that are participating in person. Does that make sense? It's kind of difficult to explain.
No, that makes sense. You'd think we should be able to do something better than that now, but this is all new to us, so.
Right.
Nick, if we were going to go to a meeting like the council, a social distance meeting, on the 19th with the Matthew Thornton room, that seems to be the best room available for that. Would that be available?
On Monday, October 19th?
Yes.
Let me take a look. Because I think the conflict with the conservation meeting was sometimes it fell on the same time that the school board was meeting.
Yep.
And as you know, the school board is meeting in person now. They're here tonight. So
that's our option, is we either have real meetings or we have Zoom meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
As of tonight, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Look up the school board schedule for you guys, but
a real meeting could include a phone line, as you would do in non-COVID times.
That's true.
Right. A real meeting with anyone that didn't want to be there calling in, right?
Yes, we have 2 phone lines available in the Matthew Thornton room now. So you could have, if there are 2 people on this board that don't want to meet in person, then they could use those 2 phone lines. Okay. And public participation, we have 11 seats available. We haven't measured the memorial room for social distancing purposes. I don't even think that they're using that room for meetings right now, to be honest with you. I think they're actually using that room for the town clerk, tax collector's office is actually using space in that room with election materials.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick. Did you say the 19th, October 19th, the Matthew Thornton room was being used or no?
I was looking that up. Sorry.
Steve, do you want to poll the commission to see who's comfortable with it?
I do. I don't know if we should do that here or if everyone should send me an email. I'm certainly comfortable with an in-person meeting with 2 phone lines. I suppose if we have more than 2 people that aren't comfortable with it for whatever reason, then we wouldn't be able to do it. But
does the town have a conference phone capability? Conference call capability?
With 2 lines, if I understood Nick correctly.
Yeah, but I'm saying with one, like most people do in business, they dial into
everyone dials in to a certain number.
Right.
Right.
So just to give you my 2 cents, I'd be comfortable with a masked meeting. I would not be comfortable with an unmasked meeting.
So
You can choose to wear a mask. It's requested you wear a mask in town hall. There's boards that meet, like the town council meets, there's social distance. Some do wear a mask, some do not wear a mask, as long as you're adhering to the 6 feet.
So I found the email that I was looking for. It was actually from Robert Price of Community Development. And he said, it's my understanding that the question of a hybrid meeting has come up throughout the day. Staff has concerns with both the legality and logistics of a hybrid meeting. Therefore, the discussion of Monday's meeting about how future meetings should be handled needs to be limited to in-person or virtual only, per the governor's emergency orders. So.
Nick, is there a regular speakerphone in the Matthew Thornton room?
There are 2 phone lines, both of which have speakerphone capabilities, and we put microphones on those phone lines.
Okay. We've heard from Mike and Pete and myself. Anyone else want?
Yeah, I'm okay with the actual meetings too. That would be fine, in-person meeting.
Yeah, I don't think you addressed Mike's concern though. Mike's concern was everyone in the room has a mask. You don't take them off after you sit down.
Correct. We're indoors. We know 6 feet's not going to do it if you don't have a mask on when everybody's speaking. So why take that risk for nothing? I wouldn't want everyone to be masked unless there's some big speech going on and someone's, even more distance away.
Okay.
I have no problem wearing a mask in an in-person meeting for the duration. That's fine. I could do either one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. If it makes you comfortable and everybody else comfortable, and yeah, it makes sense, but yeah, I'm good with it.
Yep, absolutely.
Mike Drone?
Yeah, I'm good with an in-person meeting.
Cindy?
I mean, I'd prefer to do the Zoom, but the in-person, I agree with Mike that everybody'd have to be masked.
Or you could call in too. But I think where the consensus is, we'd rather do this in person and wear the mask for the whole meeting. Okay.
So I was just giving you my condition to appear in person. I'm not against the Zoom meeting, but if we're having an in-person meeting, I would like everyone to be masked.
Mm-hmm. We don't have to do a roll call vote on this. Just those who would rather wear the mask and be in person, just raise a hand.
It's not really a preference. Like I would not rather. It's just
that's what makes people comfortable. That's fine.
Yeah, and it makes me happy if everyone's masked at an in-person meeting as well. So I'm perfectly comfortable doing it, and I think if everyone is masked, that is even better. Yeah.
I mean, alternately, what we can do, if everybody is wearing a mask, I would go to a meeting. My suggestion, though, is, I'm kind of watching how town hall is working, and there's room for probably 6 people to sit 6 feet apart up along the round table, the half circle table there. I mean, maybe what we want to do is we want to split up so that we have a quorum for every meeting, but we don't necessarily all go in for a meeting. That way there's fewer people in the room at a time.
Gina, we sit, the council, 7 of us, and the town manager, because there is the 2 rows on the one side, and then we add a table out to the end, separated. So we've been able to sit 8 of us comfortably.
Okay, so there's 9 of us, 10 of us. There's 10 of us.
And then you can sit 2 people in the gallery.
Yeah, when we had the non-public, we used the gallery.
Yeah, how would the gallery work though, as far as people being on, with a microphone and stuff? You could certainly sit somebody in the middle at the small table, but
What the town council does is stages them outside and brings them in only when they're ready to speak to us.
yeah, I'm thinking about for the 10 of us. Go ahead, Nick.
We sit 7 counselors plus the town manager and the finance director. That's 9. We sit them as if when a board meets, they're up front. That's 9. And then we have an additional 11 seats where the audience sits that are available.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying though is if there's 10 of us, so if somebody wants to talk, would you just go up to the microphone and talk from there for the person that's sitting in the gallery?
We can place a microphone in front of them.
Oh, okay.
We have the wireless microphone that we can put in front of them. We have additional mics that we can put in front of them if they're going to sit like in the first row. And then there's the presentation table. So if you have guest speakers, they'd be sitting at the presentation table. The one thing I wanted to point out is that the school board does typically meet the first and third Mondays of each month. That would be the conflict because that's why your committee was meeting at in the Memorial Conference Room.
Right.
And we haven't measured that space for meetings because it's not being used for meetings right now.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would have to be the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are meeting on the 19th?
I can't pull up their intended meeting schedule other than they usually meet the first and third Mondays of each month at 7.
All right, so can we do some research into this and figure it out later? Because we've got a long agenda here.
Yeah. Yeah, let me.
I hope I didn't disappoint you guys.
Oh, that's all right.
No, thank you, Nick. We appreciate your support.
And I just want to say that my staff and I are working hard to try to accommodate different boarding committees and different ways for people to meet. And it's not that we're against doing a hybrid meeting. It's a technological challenge for what we have available at town hall. And also we want to make sure that if we do it, that we do it right, that it doesn't cause any sort of headaches and everyone's satisfied with it. So I just want to jump into something that's sort of, not as, ill prepared.
Right. No, I'll do some more research. I'll email the entire commission with what I found out.
We appreciate it.
I'll be here all night with you guys. Just let me know.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks. Okay, I owe you all more information on that.
So why don't we just table this for the next meeting, the Sharon email?
Yeah, I got it. All right, moving on. Number 4 was the 2021 meeting schedule. I think this is pretty quick. I was going to work with Sharon to draw this up. We typically have 19 meetings a year. We typically only have 1 meeting in February because of the holidays in July and in September. I don't see it. It seems to have worked. Some of you that have been on the commission for a real long time. Is there a reason why we would want to modify that?
I don't think so.
I think September was also a 1 meeting month as well.
It was.
Because since we're on Mondays and the town hall's closed on Mondays, we can't have meetings that day. So.
Okay, I didn't know that was why. Yeah, February, July, and September.
Yeah. We can't meet on federal holidays when the town hall is also closed. So.
I will. Okay, I'll work with Sharon. We'll get it for the next meeting. We'll have a proposed meeting schedule for all of 2021. We'll get it out before the meeting, so if someone sees a glaring error in it, we can adjust. The next item on the new business agenda was a current volunteer opportunities, kind of a punch list of volunteer opportunities. Did anyone have something ready tonight, an idea? This may be one we have to table. I think the sorts of things we were looking at was for scouts or girls, scouts or other volunteer groups. I did find one item, and I'll start maintaining a list of these, I guess, these ideas. But it was I didn't print it off, or I'm not prepared to share my screen. But if you go onto Google and Google rocket boxes, what a rocket box is, I don't know if anyone has seen these. They're these four-sided four-sided bat houses. I mean, it's not something you would throw together in a couple hours with your 12-year-old in the basement. It's a massive amount of work, and I really hoped to do one with my kids sometime this fall. But check it out, a rocket box. That might be I think it's a big enough commitment. If a scout were to make 2 or 3 of these and put them on one of our properties, that might be I think that was the kind of thing we were trying to develop with that. But I throw that out. If someone wants to look at that. But I think it's something we should probably put on the agenda for the coming months, just so we can develop a punch list of 5 or 6 different volunteer type opportunities.
Because I mean, even things like maintenance are worthwhile because we've got enough, items out there in the woods now that need TLC or some repair via vandalism or whatever. So,
are the subcommittees meeting? No,
they are not. It would be really helpful if they did, because we'd probably have some ready-made things from a collective of people that could say, yeah, we need this bridge or whatnot. Mike Druin's got his hand up, Steve.
Yeah, Mike.
Because of the water level being so low, maybe we should look at the streams that are dried up. I know at Sklar there's a lot of stuff down there. Propane tank. I'm kind of afraid to touch it, but the point is we can get down there without going through the mud. That would be something to look at.
It's a great idea, and I did put a note here since I'm going to talk to Sharon about the meeting schedule. I'll ask about subcommittees too. I know there was a moratorium on subcommittees meeting, but I don't think we've asked the question recently, so it's worth asking again. I know the subcommittees are eager to meet. Anything else for that agenda item? All right, next one was discussion and a vote to add a water leveling device in the property off Brookside Drive. Someone want to talk through the details on that?
Yeah, sure. That's me. Sorry. Yeah. So I got a phone call. Well, it's a few weeks ago now from a resident on Brookside Drive regarding a new beaver dam or a new kit apparently that is really enforcing the dam that was there. Tim, you may know this. When you walk off of Brookside Drive, that parcel, that little snowmobile bridge that was built there that goes goes across into that little island.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. That was completely underwater by about 1.5 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, when I have my shovel, I can go down there. I put my hand right down up to my elbow. So, I mean, the water's deep. It's truly deep. So I did some work on the dam, and the riverway opens up quite a bit down beyond it. So it's not really in any kind of concern that we're releasing this great torrent of water. But I dropped the water level about 2 feet or so. It took about 6 hours. And went down about 2 feet, and I went out there the next day, and they've already fixed it. So it's the bridge was exposed again, but it's here we are with no rain in the forecast, and certainly no rain of any substantial quantity, and that water level is coming back up. So that's right along all those houses right there. Their properties drop off quite steeply into this reservoir, into this this pond, but it's probably something we could manage now. If it gets much deeper, I think we're going to start to have some issues with some of these back lots. So I don't know if anyone, 2 things. One, I can go show you where it is. It's pretty easy to get to. But two, if anyone's got any concerns about potentially putting another water leveler in back there.
How much is the I'm going to call it a beaver deceiver just for a lack of a better word, but do you know how much that would cost in the installation fees?
The ones that we had installed before, none of them were over $3,000.
$3,000.
I think most of them were 15 to 1,700. A couple of the bigger ones that had more work put into them to get them in were a little bit more expensive, but they've been relatively cheap. And we're having a problem with one of them right now, but I think that was man-made issue.
Okay, I'm going to make the motion to do it, and then we can discuss after. So, Rosati, I'm going to make a motion to approve the expenditure of an amount not to exceed $3,000 for the purchase and installation of a water leveling device at the property located off of Brookside Drive. Source of funding is Fund 53.
Second.
Because if they flood, then we got big problems. So.
Right. So, Gage, what you're saying is if the level gets higher with more rain and stuff, it's going to encroach on some of those neighbors.
It's a pretty steep drop off right there, so it's going to have to come up. It's going to have to come up a couple feet before it becomes a problem. But it's already there. I mean, right now, when I first walked back there, that whole path was wet, was underwater. I mean, I was ankle plus deep, and it was. That's now you're up to everybody's yard. You're up to the backsides of all those yards now at that level. And as I said, there's a downstream of that is pretty wide and it opens a way up, so it's not really a big deal to release some of that water. But I would recommend that we're gonna bring that down and try to keep it down below that bridge, because right now it's deep. I mean, it's over my head. So that's just makes me a little nervous for that bridge right there.
There are a lot of hardwoods.
I'm sorry?
Are there a lot of hardwoods in the area? A lot of.
Oh yeah, that's a thick swamp.
All right, so the beavers are not going to leave anytime soon. Okay.
No, that's the backside. That's leaving the backside behind Mitchell Woods.
Okay.
And that brook that goes out, Babuza Brook goes along the backside there. That's all, that's all heavily wooded.
Okay.
Yeah, they're there for a long time.
So we have a motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Anyone want to discuss further? Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Gina?
Yes.
Mike Boisvert?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Mike Swisher?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that motion carries 7-0.
I'll contact the same gentleman to put the rest of them in and see if we can coordinate dates.
Thank you, Gage.
Yep.
Thanks, Gage.
Yeah, and then we could just add that to our annual clean out, or Diggy comes out and services them like once a year, right? So.
Right. Yeah. So that would just be included.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you.
Steve?
Yes.
I just noticed looking back on our outline that we were supposed to take a vote for the conference, the NHACC conference.
Notice the same thing. It's hard to believe that she's made this so easy to not do the wrong thing. We found a way to do the wrong thing. You want to make that motion, Gina?
Yes, I will make a motion. Wait a minute, let me write my name in here. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the expenditure of funds to cover the cost of attendance at the NHACC conference for all Conservation Commission members wishing to attend. Source of funding is the training line in the town budget.
Second.
Cindy got it.
Okay, Gina,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike, Boisvert,
Yes.
Gage,
Yes.
Mike Swisher,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So that belated motion passes 7-0.
Just as a point of reference, we're also making sure that those funds are available to all the alternates.
Yes.
Okay.
Next item.
Same thing. So Brookside Drive.
The next one is to retreat the invasive knotwood. Oh yeah, same thing.
So that's our we have a small parcel property right there along Brookside Drive, and we did treat it. I don't know, probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And it's starting to full back up again with knotweed. So we had Bay State come in, and Mike is our forester, and he was also a licensed applicator for invasive spraying. So I don't know if we want to investigate doing that again.
How much? Did you get a quote?
I've not got a quote, and I was unable to find the old quote that we paid last time.
Can I make a motion for an amount not to exceed 1,000, and then we can figure it out just so that we can get this show on the road here?
You can, but I just don't know what the cost is.
Table it?
So I just hate to say, well, obviously we can go and get this information, but do we really even want to continue spraying for knotweed? I mean, it's invasive. We have a lot of it all over the place. We've got one location that we're identifying, and do we stay at it?
I believe last time it was one of the neighbors. It was encroaching on her property, correct? And
yeah, it was pushing the boards off her porch.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that neighbor has since moved on, but we also have beekeepers in the area, and we had to give them an update too, so that they knew to keep their bees in the hives and all that as well. So,
well, we're well past the season where they're blooming, so
right.
They shouldn't have that much finishing. But yes, we do need to keep the beekeepers apprised of this.
Well past is probably a strong word because they bloom right up until frost. So.
They're looking pretty wimpy today.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, we got a good frost the last couple of nights too. So yeah.
If they were beekeepers, because the place where I buy honey in Tingsboro, they actually sell the red bamboo honey, which is made from Japanese knotweed. So their bees will forage on that.
No, the bees love it, and the honey that it creates is great, but it's an incredibly invasive plant. So
yeah. All right. Well, why don't we table it until another night then?
Okay.
You can look into it some more. All right.
All right. Next item would be to hear feedback from the town council retreat from Pete.
Thanks. Thanks, Steve. One of the questions that I brought forward, which was asked of me, was, and I want to preface it the right way, is that I think, Tim, you brought it up, was you looking for some direction in what level of guidance the council is looking for in the management of all the town properties. Did I get that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the council was very appreciative of the recommendations that were sent in Wildcat Falls. And they said that, they certainly would look when any areas, any problems or concerns like of that nature arise, they're certainly looking for the Conservation Commission's input on all these issues, especially ones that are, concern the town property as well. So they, as far as, I guess the council wants to have their ability to manage the town land so far. But the other thing they talked about was they would like to see the commission move towards less of a locating and purchasing property direction and more of using the funds to develop the properties. And that was kind of a, and I discussed that and I said, well, what are we talking about? And some of the counselors mentioned, the grooming, spending more funds on the grooming and clearing of trails. And I know we get a lot of scouts that help out, on many projects within all our land. So that's really, I brought up the fact that the commission is interested in linking up several of the properties, and so I support that, and I told the council that in and of itself that there are a few pieces of the puzzle that we would in Greater Woods, as Tim calls it, the donut hole there and stuff, and kind of linking these pieces together. So I said that the commission's probably going to continue to look at those opportunities, but they would like to see us. See the commission using more of the funds for the actual cultivations of the property themselves, which a lot of what we've heard tonight we've done. So that was sort of the direction that they gave me at that point.
Yeah, I guess just a comment, not an action or anything. Our property acquisition philosophy has been in place because it jives well with the 10-year master plan that the planning board has put forth. So we've been kind of going after property in a manner that satisfies the 10-year master plan for the town. So if we're going to change direction with some of the funding, I think we probably want to just be aware that that's a change in potentially the master plan that we're doing. Not that it's not a bad idea, because we all know that this kind of a day was coming where we would find and locate and go after as much of the property that was at all possible for us to get our hands on, and we would go into maintenance mode anyway. So I think we're kind of mixing maintenance and property acquisition right now. So, but just a comment.
Yep. No, that's a fair comment, Tim. So I guess that was kind of the gist of what we discussed.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Pete, for reporting that back to us. Any other questions for Pete about the town council retreat? Okay. The next item we have is the Fema grant proposal. I think we talked about this a little. Gage, do you want to talk to us more about this? No.
Not really. I got that, and I was like, oh, we got more FEMA money coming in and are available, so I just I forwarded along. I didn't really spend a lot of time reading it. So,
well, Gage, I got to tell you, when I saw that, I found that very interesting, on the fact that maybe what first came to mind was not necessarily conservation land, but Watson Park, and see if and I'm going to bring this forward to Kyle and Eileen Cabanel, that to see if we can use if we're available, because I think there's a legitimate concern of erosion along the Watson Park riverside there. And one of the things we have to be careful of is the ground eroding and some of that soil underneath being exposed. So I can see it particularly right now for that use.
Yeah, that, and I mean, I was thinking more of Scalar. That's a good point, Pete. But I was thinking more of Scalar because we've obviously seen quite a bit of erosion, but it's man-made, and you know, the property is suffering because of it. But that's trying to think of some way to use that money to make that make Scalar a little bit more impervious, and make it a little bit more protected.
Great point.
So this is not really an action we're going to take on this now.
No, it was more of just an FYI. It was, we're always looking. We got projects that we want to put up in queue and fund, and that was grant money is always one of the things we can go after. So I wasn't really intending it to be an item on the agenda.
Gage, what I'll do is when I forward this, I'll also put in the thoughts of it possibly being used for Sklar.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one, and I guess it's kind of, we could talk about it now, or it could be part of Chapter 111 updates, but it's a review of e-bike use on conservation properties. Did you want to start that, Pete?
Yeah, since I started it on email. This goes back to when we first discussed this. I'd never ridden an e-bike, and Matt Karen expressed his concerns, and I kind of deferred to Matt because he seems to be the guy know a lot of off-trail riding and stuff, and the knowledge there. I had a chance this summer to actually ride in Acadia, my wife and I, with a Class 1 e-bike, and we really enjoyed it, and I didn't see it as something that would be destructive to trails. These bikes are not real fast. You have to continue to pedal. They don't ride on their own. And that was my first experience, and I thought it was great. So I've talked to a few folks in town who've discussed it with me, and some of them would like the opportunity to ride on our properties, but they know that they can't do it on a normal mountain bike. So I thought, all right, I frankly don't see the concern at this point for a Class 1. I know when we were at the national park, they prohibited Class 2, 3, and 4. And I know many of you, thank you, have gotten back to me with your thoughts on it. So I guess I'll let you guys express those since we're in a public forum now.
Going back to our original discussions about this, Pete, one of Matt's biggest concerns, and I can agree with him because it's happened to me, is people who are taking e-bikes and riding them. When I ride my bike downhill, I'm going X miles an hour. When I'm pedaling up, I'm going slow. And now all of a sudden you've got people that are coming uphill at speed. And so the closure rates on these, e-bikes coming uphill, it's much higher, and they've really caused some pretty decent accidents. And it's more, and again, it's the rider, it's not the bike, it's the rider. But that's unfortunate, but that's what it is. So I know that was one of Matt's big concerns, is that the closure rates on these hill climbs is what's really caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, I assume, Pete, that you were riding on the carriage roads in Acadia, which is a nice, wide, that some of these trails, on our lands, a lot of the people bike on. A lot of these trails are narrow. It can come on you quite quickly. There's not a great line of sight, so it's quite different than just like say being on Gateway in Greater Woods. All the trails are not like that, or like a carriage road in Acadia. I have concerns there.
Because at the time we made this, there was also, you know, the classifications of bikes weren't as broad as they are now. I don't think. I mean, we've got some really low powered bikes now, which are interesting, but we never could come up with a way to address non-motorized vehicles. And that's what this is. It's a motorized vehicle.
Yeah, I'm trying to, and I get what Gage you've said, and I get what Mike said. I guess there's part of me that says, right, and you're absolutely right. The carriage trails are very wide and gravel and flat. But I guess I've kind of, I mean, mountain bikes coming through the trails, and I've ridden my mountain bike in years past through Horse Hill and so forth. And you know, I mean, you can come up on anybody at a fairly decent, it's narrow, and one of you has to give way to the other, whether it's two bikes or a bike and a walker and so forth. And I can imagine there's very few hills that it would trails wide enough that you would be overtaking somebody in there. So, I mean, that's my thought on that.
So there's going to be some parcels of land where the deed states no motorized access. So we're not going to be able to open it up to every parcel. So it's just a footnote. I think we get into Wasserman Conservation Area for one. That's the largest example, I believe. The other ones are covered in Chapter 111, but they're not deeded. So that would be Wildcat Falls and Mitchell Woods and Hitchin Post Lane and Riverside Park. So I'm not sure about, I can't think of the name of it right now. So there's a few other parcels we'd have to look at, but so I just wanted to make it clear that there'll be some that we won't be able to no matter what. So. But it's not all the big ones. So we still have action we could take on Greater Woods or Horse Hill Nature Preserve.
And to me, I think at least having this public discussion about it with the commission allows people, they can refer back to it if they don't watch it tonight. And when questions come up, because I think that everybody here is making some good points as well. So I appreciate this discussion.
So I actually would be open to the idea of looking at e-bikes again, but we have to be really careful because Class 1 is the lowest class. You can get to 20 miles an hour. They are as long as no one's tampered with it, you're regulated at or governed at 20 miles an hour. I'm more concerned about making sure that we're very clear that the other classes or the homemade bikes would not be appropriate, because I can for $69 convert my mountain bike into an e-bike, and I can get 1,000 watts, which is more than a Class 1, and I can get a little thumb throttle drive, and I've got basically a mini bike with an electric motor versus a gas powered motor. So that would be a different animal. That would be more in line with a Class 2 bike, but yet the wattage is even higher than a Class 2. So we might run into issues where people bring the wrong class of bike on the trail, and we then have to try to enforce that. So.
Yes, I see this as being a future headache if we go down this road.
So, but it's the thumb drive ones that get me, because you could literally lock the front brake, turn on the back wheel, and you could just start spinning the wheel and start tearing things up if you wanted to. So, but a Class 1, like you said, Pete, you have to be pedaling. So as long as it's not been tampered with, it's probably a little bit more tolerable. So.
I think a point that most people don't talk about when they're having this discussion, I spent some time looking at the issue online after your email, Pete, is that even a Class 1 bike, they're not silent. And so for those of us who like a quiet walk in the woods and listen to the birds and the water going by, You're hearing a motor from coming at you down the trail from far away, like filling the woods. It's not necessarily a problem for every user. My own personal enjoyment of the woods, I prefer the fewer sounds, the better. I think in the future, they'll probably improve on that, and they'll be silent as anything. But e-bikes are heavier than your standard bike. Typically they have slightly wider tires, and oftentimes the users, a lot of them are marketed towards people who want to regain access that they lost due to mobility issues or age. And these aren't necessarily the greatest controllers of a big, heavy motorized vehicle on a thin, rocky trail. And so invariably, the trails start to widen over time because, instead of being able to stay on that single track and negotiate the rocks, they go a slightly easier route around the rock. And before you know it, over time, you've eroded your trails and creates other issues that, frankly, a traditional mountain bike is not going to, that's not going to create the same sorts of problems, because those folks are attacking those rocks. They're aiming for the rocks, and they're not going to erode the rock. But for me, it's a catch-22, because I'm all for widening access to public lands. But I mean, the other part is, like, these are supposed to be preserved as wild places to the extent possible. And that means, like, little evidence of human activity, including sound. So that's one that always kind of gets to me. Even just people having a fun time walking down the trail, hooting and hollering, irritate me. So I might not be the best person to weigh in on this. Dogs barking, that kind of thing. Like, I understand it's not just my woods, but you start introducing motors in the woods, and it completely changes the atmosphere for me. It's my 2 cents.
Anyone else?
I guess at least in some properties, Morris Hill, in the past, there's been kind of a delicate balance between bikers and walkers. And I think if the bikes start coming faster than they normally would, I mean, I'm not really a biker, so I don't know what somebody normally rides. But if they're going, the max, like up to 20 miles per hour, if they're going to be coming faster, that just might cause some more of those past issues that we have had. And I think it's great to talk about it and to keep bringing it up. But I don't think now would be the right time to change anything, personally.
So just a data point. So on the road, average speed is about 13 miles an hour for a rider. You'll get the Tour de France people will be up in the low 20s miles an hour. So, but the average rider is about 13. I took that off a website. I could bring it up and share it with you. You get below 5 miles an hour on a bicycle, and it gets hard to maintain balance. So you're optimally riding, even on a trail, at somewhere between 5 and 9 miles an hour, which is the same speed as someone moving swiftly or running through the trails. In the single tracks, you get out in the open, the wider ones where we've done logging and stuff like that, then you can easily do 13 or 15 miles an hour. So I would imagine Mr. Karen does 15 to 17 miles an hour. I know when I get on my road bike, which is a true road bike, I average about 17 miles an hour, but I'm on the road. So.
Thank you. I was curious what.
Yeah, I guess I brought it up for discussion. I'm kind of getting the feeling that obviously the commission is really not in favor of moving forward on something like this.
No, it was a good discussion to have, though, because pretty soon here we're going to talk about Chapter 111. But anyone else want to
So, Pete, I'd just like to summarize that. In my opinion, I believe there's a place on our properties where e-bikes could and would be appropriate. I just don't believe it's all the properties. So we would have to look at that use and determine where that use makes the most sense, and then properly indicate that use is allowable so people can plan for it, and then go from there. So but that's my opinion. So.
And that's a fair opinion. So I guess to me, maybe at some point during this next year, maybe we need to review it and take a look and see if, you know, if we want to spend some time to research where which property would be a good location for this, if we even want to go that far. And I'm kind of feeling that maybe I don't know, the commission right now doesn't seem like they're in favor of that.
I would definitely discuss it, and if we could find some places that it would be, you know, obviously we want to increase people's use of the woods. If we have some folks that want to use that, but we have to be very careful about where. I mean, it's got to, you know, really restrict it to the wider trails and not in the ones that people can get going too fast on, like the single track stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a thoughtful plan, and it's going to be difficult to enforce.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to enforce.
And what types we would allow.
Yeah.
There's still, I believe, the OHRV trail, that one loop you can do in Greater Woods. I guess that would qualify. It's a motorized vehicle. You can ride it right now, I think.
Yep.
That's going to change soon, I believe. Possibly.
Get in your rides.
All right. Well, listen, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, that is everything under new business. Next, we have old business. We had not previously at the annual meeting selected a vice chair.
So let's do that now. So first of all, I want to welcome, Mike Swisher has moved from an alternate position to a full member commissioner. And we want to welcome Mike Druin, who is now an alternate member. So for the first order of business for Mike Swisher, he's going to jump right into, I'm going to nominate him for vice chair. So officially, I am nominating Michael Swisher to the position of vice chair, and we need a second on that.
Second.
Gage already got the second.
Gage has a second.
Before Mike has a chance to change his mind, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. I think with these, this is every member votes, so even alternates not filling in tonight also vote on the election of the vice chair. So I'll go down the list. Hopefully I'll follow the same order again. I'm a yes. Gina?
Yes.
Mike? Bovet?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Mike Swisher?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Show some confidence. Pete?
Yes.
Mike Druin?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. It's unanimous.
Congratulations.
Mike.
You're our new vice chair.
Thank you, everyone. Apparently it is the will of the commission.
Will of the commission.
Thank you, Michael.
I aim to serve.
Let's see. Next, under old business. The Merrimack Hike Club. Who wants to talk to us about this?
I'll do it. All right. So we started the hikes. I can't remember what day it was. It was like 2 weeks ago. We did Horse Hill. 15 people showed up. We did a little over 3 miles, 2-hour hike. Everything went good. Everyone enjoyed it. Then this past weekend, we did Sklar. 20 people showed up. Everything was good. Everyone enjoyed it. We went to the boat launch, and then we came and crossed over the stream. We went over to Thornton's ferry, the site, because the river's low. You can walk on it right now. Anita and some other historical society people came with us and spoke with the people that attended the hike. It was a good educational trip. So this coming weekend, we'll be doing Wasserman. Gina will be leading that. On our hikes, we have a short trail, and then we have the long one. The short part is for the elderly and people who can't do the full hike. So at the end of that, one of the guides will lead them back to the parking area, make sure they're safe and everything good, so everyone can participate. So hoping the good weather continues so we can do more hikes before the snow falls. That's it.
While I have everyone's attention here, because what I've actually done, when Mike says I'm leading this, what I've actually done is tag my friend Michelle Landry, who lives across the way from Wasserman, and she's kind of leading it because she knows the trails much better. So we've gone out and we walked down by the river and up around. It was not a good trail for those who are challenged by unlevel terrains. So then we decided we'd do loop trail up Spine, up by Willie's Jeep, and then down. That also was not a good trail for people who are challenged by unlevel terrains. So I guess my question to those of you who know Wasserman really well is, are there any in and out about 1 mile trails that are good for people who really have a tough time with unlevel terrains?
The only thing you could do would be the exercise loop, I would think.
Yeah, even that is a little.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's the one that's the widest and I don't want to say flattest, but the terrain is, it's the most well used.
Yeah.
So it's the most beaten down. It's got the most duff on it, and Wasserman's steep. You go from the road to the pond, so it's steep and lots of graduation and lots of rock.
A lot of rock.
It's pretty hilly.
Yeah. I will say the New England mountain bike people are doing an excellent job at maintaining. I've walked virtually all the trails over the last week with Michelle. Virtually no trash. And from what I understand, NIMBA has a Facebook page, and if a tree goes down, they post on there, and within a day, somebody's out with their chainsaw. Probably Matt. It's probably still popping in and out. And taking care of it. The trails were in good shape, except there's a lot of unlevelness and a lot of rock. So for those of you who are thinking of joining us, if you're not comfortable with unlevel trails, the loop that we have right now is probably about 3 miles, and we're gonna go see that very cool rock that has, I don't know, probably 10 trees coming out of it. Then we're going to go up to see Willie's Jeep, and then we're going to loop back down Spine and go off and do a little bit down by the lake. And then we have to walk up the big hill from the parking lot up to the top parking lot, because we're all going to park in the parking lot. So it's not great for those who have a tough time with unlevel terrain and a lot of rocks. I'm just putting that out there now.
Thanks, Gina.
Tim's like, oh, wow. Okay, that's all I have to say about that.
All right, the next item, I think this has been long in the making, but the Merrimack Conservation Commission subcommittee charter for Sklar Waterfront Park. Everyone should have got a copy of this in their packets. And Mike, how many members currently do you have that are interested?
I believe there's 5. Mike, Jewett, and myself being 2 of the 5. And there's a couple of people that over the last couple of months have expressed interest in joining some committee or something in the Conservation Commission. I noticed that again when I went back to delete some emails because it was getting kind of full. Any of you have any problem if I reach out to a couple of those people and see if they want to join the subcommittee?
No, of course.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. My other question is, so if this charter gets accepted and we have a subcommittee, like, do we have an outdoor meeting and meet at the property or something? I know the subcommittees aren't meeting right now.
I've got it on my notes, Mike. We were told no, but that was several months ago. So let me revisit that and see if we can give the green light to subcommittee meetings once more.
Mike, Drew, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, the fall period is very valuable for trail maintenance and stuff like that. It'd be a shame if we let that pass. So I'm hoping that the subcommittee can meet sometime in October. But besides that, there is a real problem with those off-roaders. I caught one a week ago, but I took his license plate. I made a police report, and the police didn't do anything about it. They said, oh, I called them and told them not to do it again. But telling them not to do it again, they're just going to keep doing it because they've been doing this. They get caught once. They know their chances of getting caught are not very likely. So if someone could, coordinate with the police department, chief, something to actually crack down on this when a report is made, that'd be.
Mike, one area we did have some successes. We were trying to cultivate a relationship with Conservation Officer Sean McFadden of New Hampshire Fish and Game. They do have the resources to do this, and this is part of their mandate. Though I reached out to him recently. What was it, Mike? Do you remember? It was about a month ago, right? A month and a half ago, and he asked us to narrow down some times, some days of the week, and times where we were seeing the greatest numbers of violators. So if you're getting a sense of that, I think at the time I told him weekends and evenings, because it was July, and it was, I think Mike had said people were mostly out there doing the wrong thing in the evenings when it was cooler. But if we can get him that kind of information, he's demonstrated willingness to go down there. He's told Mike and I that he's issued citations down there.
Mike, I could remind me, both Steve and I have his phone number. We'll get it to you.
Yeah, just
another comment was, Mike ran that walk on Saturday, and it was a beautiful day, and there was a ton of people, and it was great to see everybody down there, and people were surprised by the property and really liked it and want to see it improved. And also, over the course of the walk coming back, there were a couple more people showing up on their own who drove in there to enjoy that property. So there's a lot of potential there.
Mike, just a question. You said, and I guess because this has kind of been an underlying issue for us in town regarding enforcement. When you spoke with the officer, it was his choice not to press charges, or was that your choice?
I was on the trails doing maintenance, picking up trash. I picked up a tire, and this Jeep came in right in front of me. I ran up to him. I took his picture. And I told him to get out of there, which he did. I went over to the police station, showed him the license plate number, picture. I did whatever form they asked me to do, and I went on my way. About 10 minutes later, the officer called and he said, I called the person and I told them not to do it again. And that's it. There was no option to press charges, nothing else.
Okay. Well, I guess there is an option to press charges if you wanted to. And to me, the question is if we felt concerned enough that this warranted charging, then I think that we need to ask the officer, why aren't we charging? Because I'm willing to take a statement and testify in court. I think that it wouldn't hurt for the Conservation Commission to sit down, and I would be willing to with Steve if you wanted to meet with the town manager and the chief of police just to discuss this issue on when we're going to charge and when we're not in some of these clear-cut cases. But keeping that in mind, an officer is going to need, if somebody witnesses a violation, is going to need that person to testify if they goes that far. So I think ultimately what will happen is this individual, so in my experience, that they've contacted him, documented a report. I would suspect if you saw him again out there, he's already been warned not to do it. Charges would be forthcoming in the event that he was going to do it again. I get where you're coming from, and I think that we need to have a meeting to discuss it. Also, coming up in the budget year is discussion of a conservation officer, which I've discussed with the commission before. So that position may be put in the budget this year.
So, well, thank you. So I guess we're back to we're ready for a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the proposed makeup and charter of the Scholar Waterfront Park Subcommittee.
Second.
Does anyone want to have any further discussion about the proposed charter?
So are we going forward with 7 members and 3 alternates, if I read that properly?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have the option to have that size if that interest, but we don't have to have that size, right?
Well, you run into a quorum issue.
Well, if we had only 5 members, isn't a quorum 3? And 7 it would be 4.
Well, see, the charge doesn't dictate what a quorum is. So I guess it's whatever the committee decides a quorum is.
I thought it was over 50%.
Yeah, I'm just saying right now, the charge doesn't dictate what a quorum is. That's one of the holes we have in our charges. So
I thought that was a Robert's Rules issue.
Yeah.
I mean, we could add that line in if we wanted to. More than 50% of the committee.
One more than 50% of the members present.
So you'd need 3.5 people.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Right. 50 has to be.
So that's one comment you may want to make a modification to the charge for, or you might not want to. The other comment I have is that while it's great to put a new subcommittee together and go out and do great things, realize that if you're going to start building bridges and routing new trails and all that, that needs to be approved at the commission level. That can't just happen because 4 people got together in the woods and thought this was a good idea. So So I love having subcommittees. I see lots of energy, especially in the beginning with them, but there is a throttle that you have to have going there because ultimately it's the commission is responsible for the property. So we just want to make sure that we maintain the enthusiasm, but we also control it. So whoever, if we're going to put this charge together, I think tonight we also should nominate the ex officio member as well, so that person can stay with us all the way through the process of putting the committee together.
So you're saying, like, obviously there's lots of trails there already, like just putting some markers on one of the trails for a way to walk would have to be approved by the Conservation Commission?
Well, it certainly needs to be brought up because we want to make sure that we're using the same color scheme, so that way when you go from Sklar property, you go to the other properties, they all look the same. People are used to what the white markers are versus the blue markers and stuff like that, and that you don't paint every tree. You have a reasonable distance between all of them. So there's some things that maybe subcommittee members may not be aware of. That's the norm for our properties. So that's part of the reason for making sure that the commission's aware of what's going on, or having a well-informed ex officio member who can, again, rein in the group. So
I'll volunteer to be the ex officio member if I get nominated.
I'll nominate Mike to be the ex officio for the Sklar Waterfront Park.
I think you have one motion already going still, but yeah.
Well, yeah, we can amend that.
What was the feeling? Do we need to amend the charter anyhow to add that?
Well, I think it's understood. We need to amend it. I mean, all the charters read this way.
I'm fine with it either way. I just wanted to bring it up that there was no language for a quorum. So
yeah, I'm if there's 5 of us, I'm gonna that's 3 right now.
So, yeah, in Wildcat Falls we have 5 members plus alternates, and we don't always have Wildcat Falls full. Like today, it's not the subcommittee's not filled out. So it's great that you want 7 more hands, all that great stuff. So
yeah.
So is this the template that like Greater Woods has?
Yeah, a couple of them have the same template. This is taken from Greater Woods. And Wildcat Falls is slightly different. It has only 5 and only has a chair. It doesn't have a vice chair.
Well, I just meant the whole thing, not the people, like the whole template.
Oh, I guess so. They're pretty
okay.
close. I could probably speak.
Oh yeah, I guess I just didn't recognize some of the stuff from the Horse Hill one. But like the one that says the subcommittee shall create a procedure on how an item may be brought to the attention of the subcommittee. Oh, I'm sorry, never mind. I was thinking that was to the Merrimack Commission. I'm thinking, don't we want it to be the same for everybody? Okay, never mind. Retract.
So when you guys do the NHACC, one of you should take the Engaging Volunteers seminar.
Oh yeah.
Bringing new energy and people to your commission's work.
Well, I think we've defined what a quorum would be. 1 more than 50% of the members. So are we ready to vote on?
I think so.
Okay. I'm a yes. Gina?
Yes.
Mike Boisvert?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Mike Swisher?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0 to 0. Gage made a motion to make Mike Boisvert the ex officio. I seconded that. I'm a yes. Gina?
Yes.
Mike Boisvert?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Mike Swisher?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Fantastic. Another motion carried 7-0. Thank you, Mike. And finally, that moves us to Chapter 111 update.
Before you go to that, so at this point now, we need to post that we need subcommittee members before they can appoint anyone. I know the Mikes both have subcommittee members in mind, but it needs to be posted before we can bring any subcommittee members in. And then the commission, I believe, needs to meet those subcommittee members and approve of them. Yes?
I don't know if we're required to meet with them. I think we're required to approve them. I don't think we asked them to come in, but
Okay, so we can just approve them.
yeah, I mean, particularly where we're not really having any face-to-face meetings right now, it's going to be difficult to require a meeting.
Okay, but I guess my question is, do we need to wait until our next meeting to approve them, or is this something that we can do online, or can we do it through an email?
It's an official action, so it has to be done in a public meeting,
Okay,
properly posted or
All
noted, yeah, agenda.
so you guys, Mike B and Mike D, you will need to gather up your crew and at least have names for us so that we can vote on it then.
Yeah,
Sure,
it'd be great if they could put an email together or some sort of small, quick bio that we could speak to during the meeting so we know more about them.
Okay,
So, and then when the subcommittee meets, they also have to put an agenda out and publicly note it and take minutes.
okay.
They'll follow right to know law.
All right, so that's a 1 week ahead of time? You have to pass it.
An agenda? No, I think there's a minimum of 24 hours to notice a meeting. And the terminology is notice a meeting. So basically all I have to say is we're going to have a meeting and this is where it's going to be and this is what time it is. Ideally, we notice meetings by using agendas. So that way you can see what's going to be discussed as well. But technically, I don't believe an agenda is required.
You might want to call Sharon or email Sharon, Mike, and talk to her about how this will get put together and the meetings will start happening. But and Steve is going to talk about trying to get the subcommittee meetings going again. I didn't want you running off and saying to everybody, great, we have our thing, let's get going, and then be sad because we have to approve all of your members. So.
Great point. Thank you, Gina, and we'll have to make sure that gets on the October 18th agenda.
Okay.
And I have the names already. I'll get the list to Dina or Sharon or both. Or,
Sharon Haynes. Yep.
Yeah. And if you want a bio, I can ask them for a bio. Some of them are known to us already.
Mm-hmm.
Like four, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, it's just been helpful, similar to when people apply for a position with the Concom itself. Just a quick email or something like that. Just, hey, I'm in town. I'm interested in these things. Just so we have something to, just something to talk about.
Sure.
Tim, would you give us a Chapter 111 update?
Sure. So originally, the dates moved around quite a bit. So the last date was September 24th, which is coming up this Thursday, for me to meet with the town council. After the chair and town manager reviewed the agenda, they felt that it was best to push the meeting off. So the meeting with the town council has now been reset to October 22nd. So we'll be meeting with the council at that point. Basically, what I believe all of you have seen is I provided the town council with with a copy of the plan that we put together back in 2018, the plan on how we were going to accomplish the update for Chapter 111. We are now, it's a 3-phase plan with multiple steps, and we're in phase 2 at step 11, which is seeking the town council's feedback on the progress we've made to date to make sure that we're going down the right path. The third phase is all about enacting the ordinance or the ordinance update, which means getting the legal wording correct and all that stuff. And there's really no sense in engaging the town attorney and staff to create the legal wording until we are all on the same page as to what it is we want to do. So that's the point of the meeting, is to do that. So right now I have provided the council with a copy of the plan, told them where we are in the plan. Many of the council members that are sitting today were council members when the plan was put together, so they have that familiarity. And I have given them a brief as to what the changes are, proposed changes are with Chapter 111, and those are the same changes that most of us have worked through in this commission and are familiar with. So the plan is for me to present and answer questions and represent the commission and get the feedback. Potentially the feedback is go, and we go forward with crafting the legal language. I suspect there'll be some give and take and some roundabout, and we may have some modifications that we may have to go back to and look at, or there just may be some modifications that the council just says, we're the policy board of the town, and this is the way we would like it, and that's the way we would craft the language and go forward, and there wouldn't be this go back around. That's potentially possible as well. I can see that there'll be some discussion around the use of motorized use and non-motorized use, because we did make some changes, or shouldn't say we make changes, we're suggesting changes that for discussion. There's also been some language added for target shooting to make that part of the ordinance, which is currently not. And there are some changes in which parcels that we're recommending to allow hunting, to not allow hunting. So, and basically in there, as we've all discussed before, it's to cover parcels where it's deeded and some other parcels. And we've talked about these as a commission, and we'll probably have that same discussion with the town council so that everyone is on the same page. And then we can move forward here, or make modifications and move forward. So that's essentially where we're at. We're talking about 62 parcels. If you understand, a parcel is a single legal entity, a tax map ID. Greater Woods has 10 parcels that are in it, so it's not 62 properties, it's 62 parcels, but far fewer overall properties as the layperson would know them. So I think, though, by the time we get to the point where we're actually enacting the ordinance update, which is probably still a couple of months away at the earliest, I don't really see it coming to fruition until 2021, simply because there's a process that has to be followed. I think we'll be up to 65 parcels at that point, because there are 2 newer parcels that we haven't discussed that are now part of Greater Woods. They came to us through the Chestnut Hill development process. So those 2 need to be put into a position. And then we're also got the Tomasian property that we're in the process of enacting, and Mike Swisher and I will get together here shortly over the next few days or a week or so, and we'll start moving that along as well. So 62 will probably become 65, but beyond that, I think that's going to be the parcel list, at least for quite a while. And that's the update.
Any questions for Tim?
So do you have the date and time? Did you say it was Thursday?
Well, it was going to be this Thursday. Now it's Thursday, October 22nd.
Okay, I missed that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a month out. So I guess for complete openness, Pete has asked me a few questions that he's received since the notice. I'll be preparing some more supplemental information, and I'll be sure to share that with everybody.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Other business, discussions or communications? I don't have anything to cover under other business. Anybody else? No subcommittee updates, obviously. Okay, presentation of the minutes. Did
I'll make a motion to accept the Merrimack Conservation Commission meeting minutes dated August 17th, 2020 with changes as follows.
Second?
Steve, second. All right, I have got on page page 4, line 19. It should be was certain if the stand should be chained and could be chained in place. I'm not sure if on page 5, starting on line 16, Chris Buchanan started his talk about the Amherst bicycle relating to something that the Girl Scout had talked about with the cedar posts. I don't know if we should say that he was talking about that so people are not confused. I was just going to say start line 16 with relative to Girl Scout Sarah Harding's proposed project, and then go into Chris Buchanan chair commented on a project done in Amherst. I should let you ponder that. Okay, on page 7, line 29, capitalize the S in Scouts. On page 8, line 26, I guess this is more of a question for everybody. It says this, we're talking about the Parks and Rec Fall 5K trail race at Wasserman Conservation Area. And it says the majority of the race would occur at the Wasserman Conservation Area, however, would cross into commission property. Isn't Wasserman Conservation Area commission property?
No, it's managed by the commission, but it's owned by the town, so.
Okay, but then what's commission property? Why is there a distinction between, I mean, wouldn't it be, would cross into Parks and Rec property or something?
So maybe the language, I'd have to see the tape again, but maybe the language was referring to Wasserman Park area, however, would cross into the commission managed property, maybe was meant to be said.
Yeah. So that confused me on why it was.
Are they going across the street at all onto the quarry trail?
Not that I understood.
I thought that they were going into the quarry trail. I thought that that was the map.
Well, so there's a quarry trail on the conservation property for Wasserman that extends into Horse Hill. I was not aware that they were going to cross the street and go into Horse Hill. I thought they were going to run the whole 5K within either Wasserman Park or Wasserman Conservation Area, which you could easily do a 5K and not leave either one of those. So.
Right. Okay. All right. On page 10, line 33. I actually went back on the tape because I had in my notes that the motion was seconded by Steve Perkins. So what happened was Steve Perkins kind of beat Mike Swisher by like a second. But it was Steve.
Story of my life.
The motion was withdrawn anyway. And then what ended up happening was on page 11, now on line 1, it says motion seconded by Commissioner Swisher. Again, that was Steve Perkins. So, and I went back and watched that.
Wait, she's thorough.
She sure is.
And on page 13, line 2, we have motion seconded by Commissioner Boisvert. I also have Steve Perkins on there, and I went back and checked that, and it was Steve. So, okay, and that's all I have.
So we didn't resolve your comment about Amherst.
No, we didn't.
So what do you want it to say? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that it says Parks and Rec, not Commission, but again, I would have to go back and look at the tape. So I probably should have gone back and read that. I mean, let me just grab this.
While you're looking, Gina, I have something on page 5, line 45, towards the end of the line. Should be, and was told that it is the stance of the committee. So
Okay.
add the word it.
Okay, I don't have the map really close to me here. I'd have to go digging for it, but yeah, I mean, I can always check it and then get back to Dawn. Or does it need to be in the meeting, Tim?
It's really the will of the commission here. If they want to allow the update after review of the tape, then that's fine.
I thought I remembered you making the comment, Tim, during the, when we were having that discussion, that it was Park and Rec's property. Does that not sound right?
I'm sorry, let's go, we have to go back to the.
Go back to that.
Let's, so I've lost the bubble as to where we are in the minutes.
I do too.
Well, I'd have to grab the map and I don't have that handy.
Which page and line was it?
Pardon me?
Page
Which
and line
page?
were you on, Gina?
I'm on page 8, line 26. It says the majority of the race would occur at the Wasserman Conservation Area, however, would cross into Commission property. So I think what it should say is the majority of the race would occur at the, what is it called? What's the Parks and Rec part of Wasserman called?
Wasserman Park.
Okay, so would occur at Wasserman Park, however, would cross into Commission property.
Commission managed property, yeah.
But I mean, unless I look at the map that he has, I'm not gonna know for sure if that's correct either. Because quite honestly, I mean, it seems like they're kind of looping.
Yeah.
You know, but they seem to be pretty equal on both properties.
I guess my earlier comment was back on page 5 when you were talking about Christopher Buchanan. You had said, hey, let's.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. My suggestion for that is on page 5, line 16. Start that sentence with relative to Girl Scout Hardy's proposed project, comma, Christopher Buchanan commented on a project done in Amherst that involved putting posts in the ground. Because he started talking about the cedar posts, building off of what Sarah was talking about with her cedar posts for her selfie stands. So he was trying to be helpful and he was talking about cedar posts. And it just seemed kind of confusing that all of a sudden out of nowhere, he was talking about cedar posts. So.
Yeah, I would agree to that, but I'm not voting.
You know what?
I'm not voting.
Oh.
I think we all would agree to that.
Okay. All right. And that's all I have.
Anyone else?
Michael, you had one, didn't you?
I did. Did it not get taken down? This is page 5. Page 5, line 45, towards the end of the line, should say, and was told that it is the stance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was all I found that Gina didn't already.
Okay, well, let's vote to approve. I'm a yes. Gina?
Yes.
Mike Blaver?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike Swisher?
Yes.
And Pete?
Yes.
Fantastic. I don't see any public on for public comments. So let's do commissioner comments. Cindy?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Sorry, I went out of order after I said I wasn't going to go out of order.
I know, I was like, what?
And it had the anticipated effect too, didn't it? I'm sorry. Gina?
No, nothing.
Mike Boisvert?
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, there's supposed to be additional boulders available for Scalar. That's one question. And is there any idea when they're going to be? And my other question is, so if the boulders get delivered, now, I know we had permission before, I think from the town and the commission, to move those boulders in place. So like if Mark Podarski volunteered to move those rocks again, we could just do it? This is a question.
I would think so. It was our intent to put those rocks there to stop. You know, we expended funds to put posts and stop trespassing. I don't feel there'd be any problem with if Mark's going to offer his time again and his equipment, or anybody for that matter, that we can continue down that path.
Yeah. Okay. And what about those other boulders, Tim? There possible more rocks or something?
Yeah, well, they're sitting there on the property that is about to become ours. So, so it would be a matter of, well, last time we picked them up from the, the Public Works picked them up from the property and delivered them to Sklar, but they were then divvied out. I believe all the work that's being done to put that parcel in place is all set now, so someone could go in and retrieve them. Of course, if we own the property, then we could just go do it. I'm not sure we have to, again, ask permission to go grab the rocks that are allocated to us.
Okay, because I want to, ask Mark once, and just so when those boulders get delivered, you can work with those and the ones that got moved out of place. He already said that he would do it.
Tim, Kyle Fox has told me that just let him know where the rocks are and when they can come and they'll help out. So.
Okay. Yeah, they're easy to get to now, so I'll just make sure that no one has heartburn about us going in there. So.
Gina, do you want a second chance to go in order?
No, thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Cindy. You good? Gage?
Nope. Good.
No, I don't have any comments.
Mike Swisher?
I think my only comment would be to you, Steve, which would be in your conversation that you're going to have about the possibility of restarting subcommittee meetings. Maybe remind them that they don't need to be taped. We do take minutes, but quite frequently folks meet outside, which is very conducive to the times. And I think there'd be a willingness there. So anything that might help convince the powers that be to let us move forward on that, I think would be helpful.
Those are great points. Yeah, I've added those to my notes. I'll take that up tomorrow. See if we can get a green light to do that. Pete? Pete's on mute.
Yeah, I think I've said enough tonight. Thanks. I'm good.
Tim?
So we're coming up on deer hunting season again. The youth weekend will be coming up later in October, and then there'll be the muzzleloader and firearm season. So people should be aware that as they're starting to enjoy the woods in the fall, that it's getting to be appropriate to wear your orange. I think we're already in archery season for turkey at this point. So So just be aware, I'm starting to see vehicles parked in normal places that I know are places where hunters access different properties, including a number of our own properties. So it's time to start thinking about putting your hunter orange on before you go in the woods, including your pets. Your dog should also have hunter orange on them, especially if they're under your control, but they're not on a leash. So.
Great point, Tim. Mike Druin?
I don't have anything.
Okay, my apologies, folks, that this ran a little long. It was an ambitious agenda, so we did our best with that. Anyone want to make the motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, who did it?
Gage did.
Gage? Who's seconding?
Second.
Cindy.
All right. I'm a yes. Gina?
Yes.
Mike Boisvert?
Affirmative.
Cindy?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Pete?
Yes.
All right. Thanks, folks. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.